Origins of the Plantagenets. The Plantagenet dynasty, which ruled England from 1154 to 1485, is one of the most influential in English history, leaving a legacy of legal, political, and cultural innovations. However, the roots of this powerful lineage lie in the 12th century, shaped by the ambitions of Geoffrey of Anjou and Empress Matilda, and solidified during the turbulent period known as the Anarchy. Let's explore the origins of the Plantagenets, including Geoffrey of Anjou's foundational role, the civil strife that defined the Anarchy, evolving historiographical perspectives on Matilda's leadership, and the broader context of Angevin politics and culture that shaped this enduring dynasty. Geoffrey of Anjou's legacy, the emergence of a dynasty. Geoffrey of Anjou, the patriarch of the Plantagenet dynasty, played a pivotal role in establishing the family's prominence in European politics. Born in 1113 to Fulk V, Count of Anjou and later King of Jerusalem, Geoffrey inherited the county of Anjou, Maine, and Touraine. His marriage in 1128 to Empress Matilda, the daughter of King Henry I of England and widow of Holy Roman Emperor Henry V, positioned Geoffrey as a crucial figure in Anglo-Norman succession disputes. A strategic marriage. Geoffrey's marriage to Matilda was not only a personal alliance but a meticulously crafted political maneuver. The union represented the merging of two powerful houses, Normandy and Anjou, each with its own claims and aspirations. By aligning with Matilda, Geoffrey extended Angevin influence into England and gained legitimacy through association with the Norman dynasty. This marriage also established a lasting connection between Anjou and England, setting the stage for what would later become the Angevin Empire. Geoffrey's military and administrative reforms. Known for his martial prowess and administrative skill, Geoffrey consolidated his territories and laid the foundation for his son, Henry II, to inherit a vast empire. His epithet Plantagenet, derived from the broom plant, Plantagenista, he adopted as his personal emblem, symbolized the enduring identity of the dynasty. Geoffrey's emphasis on chivalric values, fortifications, and strategic alliances profoundly influenced his descendants. Geoffrey implemented innovative administrative practices in his territories, including streamlined tax collection and record-keeping systems, which would later be reflected in the governance strategies of his son Henry II. These practices set a precedent for the centralization of power and the professionalization of royal administration, key features of the Plantagenet rule. Cultural and political innovations. A synthesis of traditions. Geoffrey's court blended Angevin, Norman, and Frankish traditions, fostering a vibrant cultural milieu. This synthesis shaped the Angevin Empire's governance and diplomacy, creating a framework that Henry II would expand upon. Geoffrey's court emphasized the importance of loyalty, military strength, and administrative competence, traits that defined the Plantagenet rulers. Geoffrey's court also served as a center of cultural patronage. Poets, chroniclers, and scholars thrived under his rule, and the Angevin court became a hub for the dissemination of ideas. This cultural dynamism not only elevated the prestige of the Plantagenet dynasty but also helped establish their broader legacy as patrons of learning and the arts. Fortifications and military strategy. Geoffrey's legacy included innovations in castle building and military strategy. His construction of fortified strongholds across Anjou demonstrated his understanding of the importance of secure territorial control. These castles were more than just military structures, they symbolized authority, stability, and the ruler's ability to protect his subjects. Key examples include Château de Chinon and Château d'Angers, which not only fortified his territories but also served as administrative centers. These strongholds embodied the Plantagenet emphasis on blending military utility with architectural grandeur, a tradition that would be carried forward by his descendants. Marriage alliances and diplomacy. Geoffrey's marriage to Matilda exemplifies his strategic acumen. This union was not merely a personal alliance but a political maneuver designed to assert Angevin influence over England. By securing Matilda's claim to the English throne, Geoffrey positioned their descendants to dominate both sides of the Channel. His deft navigation of feudal politics in France ensured stability within his own territories, setting the stage for Henry II's eventual consolidation of the Angevin Empire. The Anarchy, 1135 to 1153, a period of chaos and transition. Political chaos and rivalry. The death of King Henry I of England in 1135 without a legitimate male heir plunged the realm into a period of civil war known as the Anarchy. Although Matilda had been named Henry's successor and received oaths of loyalty from the barons, her cousin Stephen of Blois seized the throne with the support of key nobles and the church. This usurpation sparked nearly 2 decades of conflict, as both claimants vied for control of England. The Anarchy exposed the fragility of feudal governance, as barons exploited the breakdown of royal authority to assert their autonomy. Chroniclers describe the period as one of widespread lawlessness and suffering. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle famously lamented that Christ and his saints slept, highlighting the pervasive violence and despair of the time. Key events and turning points. The Anarchy was marked by shifting alliances, sieges, and dramatic episodes. In 1141, Matilda's forces captured King Stephen at the Battle of Lincoln, a victory that briefly tipped the scales in her favor. Despite this, Matilda struggled to gain widespread support. The failure of her coronation attempt in London underscored the challenges she faced as a female claimant in a patriarchal society. The Treaty of Wallingford in 1153 marked the end of the Civil War, recognizing Stephen as king but naming Matilda's son, Henry of Anjou, as his heir. This compromise not only secured the Plantagenet succession but also highlighted the political savvy of both parties in avoiding further devastation. Economic and social consequences. The Anarchy devastated the English economy. Agricultural production plummeted due to constant warfare, and heavy taxation exacerbated the suffering of the peasantry. Urban centers became battlegrounds, disrupting trade networks and undermining economic stability. Nevertheless, the lessons of the Anarchy informed Henry II's governance, particularly his focus on restoring royal authority and reforming administrative practices. The period's hardships underscored the importance of centralized control and paved the way for the Plantagenet dynasty's long-term success. Historiography, reassessing Matilda's leadership. Medieval perspectives. Contemporary accounts of Matilda's leadership often reflect the gender biases of the medieval period. Chroniclers such as William of Malmesbury acknowledged her legitimate claim to the throne but criticized her assertiveness, describing her as haughty and unable to win the loyalty of her subjects. These narratives often contrasted her perceived failures with the successes of male rulers, perpetuating a view of Matilda as an unsuitable leader. Modern feminist interpretations. Feminist historians have re-evaluated Matilda's role, emphasizing her political acumen and resilience. Scholars such as Marjorie Shibnall highlight the systemic barriers Matilda faced and argue that her inability to secure the throne stemmed more from societal constraints than personal shortcomings. Her leadership during the Anarchy demonstrated remarkable strategic brilliance, particularly in moments like her escape from Oxford Castle. Modern scholarship reframes Matilda not as a failed monarch but as a trailblazer who challenged the patriarchal norms of her time. This reinterpretation enriches our understanding of her role in Plantagenet history and underscores the complexity of medieval power dynamics. The wider context, Angevin politics and society. The role of barons and local governance. The Anarchy highlighted the importance of baronial cooperation in maintaining political stability. The Treaty of Wallingford exemplified the need for compromise between the monarchy and the nobility, a theme that would define Plantagenet governance. This balance of power laid the groundwork for the development of institutions like Parliament, which emerged as a forum for negotiation and conflict resolution. Cultural and intellectual foundations. The 12th century was a period of cultural and intellectual flourishing. Geoffrey of Anjou's court championed chivalric ideals and promoted the arts, creating a cultural foundation that influenced the Plantagenet kings. The Angevin Empire became a center for literary and architectural innovation, reflecting the dynasty's commitment to blending tradition with progress. Broader European context. The Plantagenet dynasty's rise cannot be understood in isolation. The broader currents of medieval European politics, including the investiture controversy and the Crusades, shaped the environment in which they emerged. These events underscored the interconnectedness of European powers and highlighted the Plantagenet's ability to navigate complex alliances and rivalries. Conclusion. The origins of the Plantagenet dynasty were forged in a crucible of ambition, conflict, and resilience. Geoffrey of Anjou's strategic vision laid the groundwork for the family's rise to power, blending diplomacy, cultural innovation, and military strength. The anarchy, despite its chaos, ultimately set the stage for the consolidation of Plantagenet rule under Henry II. Finally, the historiographical re-evaluation of Matilda's leadership highlights the enduring significance of her contributions, challenging traditional narratives and offering new insights into the complexities of medieval power dynamics. By examining the roots of the Plantagenets, we gain a deeper appreciation for the forces that shaped one of England's most influential dynasties. The challenges they overcame and the legacies they forged continue to resonate, providing a window into the political and cultural currents of medieval Europe. Thanks for listening. Like, comment, and subscribe to Medieval Chronicles 1066 for more explorations in medieval history. Stay curious. Henry II, architect of Angevin England, the early years. Henry II of England, 1133 to 1189, the first Plantagenet king, was a transformative figure in medieval Europe, whose legacy is deeply rooted in his legal reforms, territorial ambitions, and the enduring complexities of his personal life. To fully understand the man who would shape the Angevin Empire, it is essential to explore his formative years and the distinct qualities of his physical appearance and personality. Henry's early life, set against the backdrop of political turmoil, and his striking character traits, captured vividly by contemporaries, offer profound insights into his rise as a formidable leader and the architect of one of the most expansive domains of the medieval period. Henry II's early years, 1133 to 1149, foundations of a dynasty. Family background: Geoffrey Plantagenet's ambitions and Matilda's resolve. Henry II was born on March 5, 1133, in Le Mans, the product of a union marked by strategic foresight and dynastic ambition. His father, Geoffrey Plantagenet, Count of Anjou, was a resolute leader whose territorial ambitions extended beyond the confines of Anjou, Maine, and Touraine. Geoffrey's calculated marriage to Matilda, daughter of King Henry I of England, sought to unify their claims and expand Plantagenet influence across Western Europe. Despite their often strained relationship, Geoffrey was significantly younger than Matilda. Their shared determination provided the foundation for Henry's eventual ascension. Matilda, known as the Empress due to her earlier marriage to Emperor Henry V of the Holy Roman Empire, was a paragon of resolve. Following her father's death in 1135, her claim to the English throne was contested by her cousin Stephen of Blois, igniting a protracted civil war known as the Anarchy. Matilda's ceaseless efforts to assert her rights were not merely personal but underscored her commitment to securing a stable and enduring dynasty for her progeny. Consequently, Henry's formative years were shaped by the volatile interplay of his parents' ambitions, instilling in him an acute understanding of power dynamics, familial legacy, and the necessity of unwavering leadership in the pursuit of sovereignty. The union between Geoffrey and Matilda was emblematic of the broader geopolitical tensions of 12th-century Europe. Geoffrey's ambitions were grounded in consolidating and expanding Angevin influence, which included strategic alliances through marriage and calculated campaigns against regional rivals. Matilda, meanwhile, represented the convergence of imperial and Norman claims, bringing with her a legacy of governance from her time as Empress of the Holy Roman Empire. Their respective ambitions often clashed within their marriage, but their shared vision for their son's future reinforced a singular focus on establishing a dynasty capable of ruling a fragmented England. The Anarchy, Lessons in Crisis and Leadership. The Anarchy, 1135 to 1154, was a period of prolonged civil war and fractured governance that profoundly influenced Henry's development. Following King Stephen's seizure of the throne, England descended into chaos, with allegiances divided between Stephen and Matilda. The instability, characterized by sieges, battles, shifting alliances, and widespread lawlessness, left an indelible mark on the young Henry. Henry's exposure to the conflict began at an early age, accompanying his mother during her campaigns to reclaim her inheritance. These experiences were formative, offering him an intimate understanding of the intricate challenges of medieval warfare, including the logistics of moving armies, the importance of fortifications, and the psychological dimensions of siege warfare. One of the most significant episodes was the Siege of Oxford in 1142, during which Matilda famously escaped under the cover of night, traversing the frozen Thames. Such moments not only highlighted Matilda's ingenuity but also underscored the high stakes of leadership in times of crisis. These lessons would shape Henry's own approach to military and political strategy, particularly his focus on adaptability and decisive action. The pervasive disorder of the anarchy illuminated the perils of weak centralized authority. Stephen's inability to impose order demonstrated the inherent vulnerabilities of a fragmented realm, a reality that deeply informed Henry's later emphasis on administrative reform and legal standardization. The fluidity of alliances during this period also provided Henry with a pragmatic education in political negotiation. He observed firsthand the importance of balancing coercion and conciliation, lessons that he would later employ to great effect in unifying his realm and asserting control over a fractious nobility. Education, shaping a statesman. Henry's education was comprehensive and meticulously designed to prepare him for the multifaceted demands of kingship. Recognizing the importance of intellectual and practical training, his parents ensured that he was instructed by some of the most distinguished scholars of the period. Henry's curriculum included the study of classical texts by Cicero, Aristotle, and Seneca, providing him with a foundation in rhetoric, ethics, and governance. These writings shaped his intellectual approach to rulership, particularly his commitment to justice and the rule of law. A key component of Henry's education was his exposure to Roman legal principles, which informed his later innovations in English common law. The emphasis on codified systems of justice resonated deeply with Henry, inspiring his efforts to create a more standardized and equitable legal framework for his subjects. His intellectual pursuits also extended to ecclesiastical writings, reflecting his understanding of the intricate relationship between secular and religious authority. In addition to academic training, Henry's education emphasized military strategy and physical endurance. He was trained in the intricacies of fortifications, siege warfare, and battlefield tactics, all essential skills for a medieval ruler. Contemporary accounts frequently highlight Henry's extraordinary stamina and energy, traits cultivated during this rigorous upbringing and critical to his later effectiveness as both a military commander and an itinerant administrator. The physical demands of his education complemented his intellectual development, creating a leader capable of navigating the complexities of medieval governance with remarkable agility. Equally significant were Henry's lessons in diplomacy and interpersonal negotiation. His ability to articulate a vision and rally support was evident even in his youth, earning him the admiration of his followers and the respect of his adversaries. This synthesis of intellectual depth, practical training, and interpersonal acumen prepared Henry to navigate the multifaceted challenges of medieval rulership with unparalleled effectiveness. Early campaigns, the England invasion of 1147. In 1147, at just 14, Henry embarked on his first independent military campaign to assert his family's claim to the English throne. Commanding a modest force of mercenaries, he crossed the Channel to challenge King Stephen. Although the campaign ultimately faltered due to inadequate resources and support, it showcased Henry's emerging strategic acumen and personal courage. This audacious endeavor was a testament to Henry's determination and precocious sense of responsibility. The campaign, despite its logistical challenges, underscored his willingness to take calculated risks in pursuit of his objectives. It also highlighted the importance of resource management and coalition building, lessons that would prove invaluable in his later military and political efforts. Henry's leadership during this period earned him the respect of his followers and cemented his reputation as a rising power in the ongoing conflict. Moreover, the 1147 campaign offered Henry an opportunity to test his mettle in the complex arena of medieval warfare. From coordinating the movement of his forces to negotiating with potential allies, Henry demonstrated an aptitude for strategic thinking that belied his youth. While the campaign's immediate objectives were not realized, the experience reinforced Henry's resolve to continue his pursuit of the throne, laying the groundwork for his eventual success. 1149 – Knighthood and diplomatic alliances. In 1149, a pivotal moment in Henry's early career unfolded when he was knighted by King David I of Scotland in Carlisle. This act was far more than a ceremonial milestone. It was a calculated assertion of legitimacy and a strategic alliance between the Angevin and Scottish crowns. By securing David's support, Henry bolstered his position against Stephen and reinforced his claim to the English throne. The knighthood also carried broader implications for Henry's development as a leader. It conferred upon him the recognition necessary to command greater respect among the Anglo-Norman barons. Additionally, this episode highlighted the significance of medieval political networks, where personal relationships and symbolic gestures played critical roles in cementing authority and alliances. For Henry, the ceremony symbolized his transition from a precocious youth to a leader ready to engage in the high-stakes world of medieval politics. Appearance and personality. Contemporary descriptions. Contemporaries such as Gerald of Wales and Walter Map provide vivid insights into Henry's physical presence and temperament. Gerald described him as of medium height, with a robust and muscular build, exuding vitality and strength. His unruly red hair, inherited from his Norman lineage, was emblematic of his restless and energetic disposition. Walter Map remarked on his piercing grey eyes, which conveyed both intelligence and intensity, traits that often left a lasting impression on those who encountered him. Henry's demeanor was equally distinctive. Known for his boundless energy, he was often described as physically incapable of remaining still. This relentless activity was a double-edged sword. While it fueled his tireless work ethic, it also contributed to impulsive decisions. His sharp wit and volatile temper, frequently remarked upon by his contemporaries, added further complexity to his character. Illustrative anecdotes. Henry's impetuous temper was infamous. One well-known anecdote recounts how, in a moment of rage, he threw himself onto the floor, gnashing his teeth and tearing at the rushes. Such episodes reveal the intensity of his emotions and his ongoing struggle to temper them. Yet, these outbursts were counterbalanced by moments of calculated restraint, evidencing his capacity for strategic thinking when the stakes were highest. Equally notable was Henry's indefatigable work ethic. He personally oversaw legal cases, often presiding over judgments for hours on end. His itinerant court, which traversed his territories, enabled him to maintain direct oversight of governance. This hands-on approach earned him a reputation for diligence and justice, even as it placed considerable strain on his subordinates, who struggled to match his relentless pace. Interpersonal dynamics. Henry's personality significantly shaped his relationships with key figures in his life. His charisma and intellect earned him admiration, yet his fiery temper and relentless demands frequently caused friction. Within his family, his authoritarian tendencies led to deep-seated conflicts with his wife, Eleanor of Aquitaine, and his sons, who resented his efforts to control their futures. His relationship with the church was equally fraught. While his administrative reforms strengthened royal authority, they often brought him into conflict with ecclesiastical leaders, most notably Thomas Becket. Henry's impatience and volatility exacerbated these tensions, culminating in the notorious murder of Becket in 1170. With his barons, Henry balanced respect with suspicion. While his ability to inspire loyalty was undeniable, his centralizing policies alienated certain factions. Nevertheless, his strategic acumen and magnetic leadership enabled him to maintain a precarious equilibrium, consolidating power without igniting widespread rebellion. Public persona versus private struggles. In public, Henry exuded confidence and decisiveness, captivating audiences with his eloquent and commanding presence. His ability to connect with individuals across the social spectrum was a cornerstone of his leadership. However, his public composure often masked private turmoil. His temperamental nature and unrelenting drive strained relationships within his inner circle and contributed to the familial and political discord that characterized his later years. By 1149, Henry had already demonstrated many of the attributes that would define his reign: strategic brilliance, an unwavering commitment to justice, and an unyielding determination to assert his authority. These early experiences not only prepared him to claim the English crown but also forged the foundation of one of medieval Europe's most consequential reigns. Thanks for listening. Like, comment, and subscribe to Medieval Chronicles 1066 for more explorations in medieval history. Stay curious. Henry II of England, 1133 to 1189, the first Plantagenet king, was a transformative figure in medieval Europe. In 1147, at just 14, Henry embarked on his first independent military campaign to assert his family's claim to the English throne. Commanding a modest force of mercenaries, he crossed the Channel to challenge King Stephen. Although the campaign ultimately faltered due to inadequate resources and support, it showcased Henry's emerging strategic acumen and personal courage. This audacious endeavor was a testament to Henry's determination and precocious sense of responsibility. The campaign, despite its logistical challenges, underscored his willingness to take calculated risks in pursuit of his objectives. It also highlighted the importance of resource management and coalition building, lessons that would prove invaluable in his later military and political efforts. Henry's leadership during this period earned him the respect of his followers and cemented his reputation as a rising power in the ongoing conflict. Moreover, the 1147 campaign offered Henry an opportunity to test his mettle in the complex arena of medieval warfare. From coordinating the movements of his forces to negotiating with potential allies, Henry demonstrated an aptitude for strategic thinking that belied his youth. While the campaign's immediate objectives were not realized, the experience reinforced Henry's resolve to continue his pursuit of the throne, laying the groundwork for his eventual success. 1149 – Knighthood and diplomatic alliances. In 1149, a pivotal moment in Henry's early career unfolded when he was knighted by King David I of Scotland in Carlisle. This act was far more than a ceremonial milestone. It was a calculated assertion of legitimacy and a strategic alliance between the Angevin and Scottish crowns. By securing David's support, Henry bolstered his position against Stephen and reinforced his claim to the English throne. The knighthood also carried broader implications for Henry's development as a leader. It conferred upon him the recognition necessary to command greater respect among the Anglo-Norman barons. Additionally, this episode highlighted the significance of medieval political networks, where personal relationships and symbolic gestures played critical roles in cementing authority and alliances. For Henry, the ceremony symbolized his transition from a precocious youth to a leader ready to engage in the high-stakes world of medieval politics. Appearance and personality. Contemporary descriptions. Contemporaries such as Gerald of Wales and Walter Map provide vivid insights into Henry's physical presence and temperament. Gerald described him as of medium height, with a robust and muscular build, exuding vitality and strength. His unruly red hair, inherited from his Norman lineage, was emblematic of his restless and energetic disposition. Walter Map remarked on his piercing grey eyes, which conveyed both intelligence and intensity, traits that often left a lasting impression on those who encountered him. Henry's demeanor was equally distinctive. Known for his boundless energy, he was often described as physically incapable of remaining still. This relentless activity was a double-edged sword. While it fueled his tireless work ethic, it also contributed to impulsive decisions. His sharp wit and volatile temper, frequently remarked upon by his contemporaries, added further complexity to his character. Illustrative anecdotes. Henry's impetuous temper was infamous. One well-known anecdote recounts how, in a moment of rage, he threw himself onto the floor, gnashing his teeth and tearing at the rushes. Such episodes reveal the intensity of his emotions and his ongoing struggle to temper them. Yet, these outbursts were counterbalanced by moments of calculated restraint, evidencing his capacity for strategic thinking when the stakes were highest. Equally notable was Henry's indefatigable work ethic. He personally oversaw legal cases, often presiding over judgments for hours on end. His itinerant court, which traversed his territories, enabled him to maintain direct oversight of governance. This hands-on approach earned him a reputation for diligence and justice, even as it placed considerable strain on his subordinates, who struggled to match his relentless pace. Interpersonal dynamics. Henry's personality significantly shaped his relationships with key figures in his life. His charisma and intellect earned him admiration, yet his fiery temper and relentless demands frequently caused friction. Within his family, his authoritarian tendencies led to deep-seated conflicts with his wife, Eleanor of Aquitaine, and his sons, who resented his efforts to control their futures. His relationship with the church was equally fraught. While his administrative reforms strengthened royal authority, they often brought him into conflict with ecclesiastical leaders, most notably Thomas Becket. Henry's impatience and volatility exacerbated these tensions, culminating in the notorious murder of Becket in 1170. With his barons, Henry balanced respect with suspicion. While his ability to inspire loyalty was undeniable, his centralizing policies alienated certain factions. Nevertheless, his strategic acumen and magnetic leadership enabled him to maintain a precarious equilibrium, consolidating power without igniting widespread rebellion. Public persona versus private struggles. In public, Henry exuded confidence and decisiveness, captivating audiences with his eloquent and commanding presence. His ability to connect with individuals across the social spectrum was a cornerstone of his leadership. However, his public composure often masked private turmoil. His temperamental nature and unrelenting drive strained relationships within his inner circle and contributed to the familial and political discord that characterized his later years. By 1149, Henry had already demonstrated many of the attributes that would define his reign: strategic brilliance, an unwavering commitment to justice, and an unyielding determination to assert his authority. These early experiences not only prepared him to claim the English crown but also forged the foundation of one of medieval Europe's most consequential reigns. Thanks for listening. Like, comment, and subscribe to Medieval Chronicles 1066 for more explorations in medieval history. Stay curious. Henry II's reforms. Henry II of England, 1154 to 1189, stands as one of the most innovative and influential monarchs in medieval European history. His reign marked a paradigm shift in the consolidation of royal power and the establishment of legal and administrative frameworks that profoundly shaped subsequent governance. This analysis explores Henry II's reforms in law, administration, and military organization, alongside his skillful dispute resolution and consolidation of authority, emphasizing his enduring legacy in shaping the English state. Legal reforms. Henry II's reign marked the genesis of a unified legal tradition in England, which significantly influenced the evolution of common law. His judicial reforms, epitomized by the Assize of Clarendon and the Assize of Northampton, were foundational in institutionalizing a centralized and consistent legal framework. The Assize of Clarendon, 1166, and the Assize of Northampton, 1176. The Assize of Clarendon, promulgated in 1166, was a landmark legislative act designed to strengthen the Crown's authority over justice. This measure mandated local juries of presentment to identify and accuse individuals suspected of serious crimes, thus standardizing a process that curtailed arbitrary local practices. These juries, composed of reputable men from the community, were charged with presenting suspected criminals based on communal knowledge rather than personal vendettas. A decade later, the Assize of Northampton, 1176, expanded and refined the principles of the Assize of Clarendon. This legislation prescribed stricter penalties for crimes and enhanced the use of itinerant justices who traveled circuits to enforce royal authority. These justices, empowered to oversee local courts, ensured that judicial practices adhered to standardized royal procedures, significantly diminishing the autonomy of local lords in dispensing justice. The reforms collectively established a robust legal framework that prioritized fairness and uniformity, reinforcing the authority of the Crown. The institutionalization of jury trials. Under Henry II, jury trials became a cornerstone of the English judicial system. Moving away from archaic methods such as trial by ordeal and combat, Henry's reforms introduced evidence-based trials where impartial juries determined guilt or innocence. The jurors, drawn from the local community, were tasked with evaluating testimony and evidence. This innovation represented a significant step toward rational and equitable adjudication. The system's emphasis on collective judgment and empirical evidence laid the groundwork for the modern principle of rule of law, where legal decisions are determined through standardized procedures rather than arbitrary decrees. Jury trials also reduced the influence of feudal lords, transferring judicial power to the crown and reinforcing the centralization of authority. The evolution of common law. Henry II's legal reforms coalesced into the creation of common law, a unified system of legal principles applicable across England. By standardizing legal procedures and emphasizing judicial precedents, Henry ensured that similar cases were treated uniformly. This principle of stare decisis, adherence to precedent, fostered consistency and predictability, which became hallmarks of common law. The centralization of legal authority under common law also facilitated greater integration of the diverse regions within Henry's Angevin Empire. A uniform legal system mitigated regional disparities and conflicts, fostering cohesion and loyalty to the crown. The enduring influence of common law extends beyond England, shaping legal systems in former British colonies and embedding principles of equity and justice in modern jurisprudence. Administrative reforms. Henry II's administrative reforms were instrumental in enhancing the efficiency of governance and consolidating royal authority. His innovations in taxation, financial management, and bureaucratic organization fortified the infrastructure of the English state. Innovations in taxation. Henry II revolutionized the fiscal landscape through the introduction of scutage, a monetary payment that vassals could make in lieu of providing military service. This measure allowed the crown to bypass traditional feudal levies, enabling Henry to finance professional armies directly under royal control. Scutage not only increased the crown's financial autonomy but also signaled the monetization of feudal obligations, a critical step toward modern state building. Henry also implemented comprehensive surveys, such as the Cartae Baronum, to assess landholdings and feudal dues. These records provided the crown with detailed knowledge of baronial wealth and obligations, ensuring more accurate taxation and reducing opportunities for evasion. By strengthening fiscal oversight, Henry diminished the power of feudal intermediaries, centralizing revenue collection and augmenting royal authority. Strengthening financial accountability. The Exchequer, England's central financial institution, underwent significant restructuring under Henry II. Regular audits, conducted through viewing the rolls, enforced accountability among sheriffs and other royal officials tasked with revenue collection. This meticulous oversight reduced corruption and inefficiency, bolstering the crown's financial stability. The professionalization of the Exchequer marked a turning point in state administration. By instituting transparent financial practices and fostering a culture of accountability, Henry II laid the foundation for a bureaucratic apparatus capable of supporting the expanding demands of governance. This system provided the crown with the resources to implement ambitious policies and maintain stability across the Angevin Empire. Centralization of governance. Henry II's administrative reforms extended beyond financial management to the broader organization of governance. He established a centralized bureaucracy staffed by educated clerks and officials loyal to the crown. This professionalization reduced the influence of regional magnates and ensured more consistent implementation of royal policies. The use of royal writs, standardized documents communicating the king's commands, further streamlined governance. These writs eliminated ambiguities in royal directives and facilitated efficient communication between the crown and local administrators. The centralization of administrative authority not only enhanced governance but also reinforced the monarchy's legitimacy as the ultimate arbiter of law and policy. Military organization. Henry II's military reforms were integral to the consolidation of royal authority and the stabilization of his vast territories. By restructuring feudal obligations and investing in professional armies, he reduced reliance on baronial forces and fortified the crown's military capacity. Scutage and professional armies. The introduction of scutage exemplified Henry's pragmatic approach to military organization. By allowing vassals to pay a fee instead of providing knights, Henry generated revenue to hire professional soldiers directly loyal to the crown. This shift diminished the military power of feudal lords and enabled the king to maintain a standing army capable of responding swiftly to threats. Professional armies offered several advantages over traditional feudal levies, including greater reliability and extended service periods. This capability was crucial for defending the extensive Angevin territories, which spanned England, Normandy, Anjou, and Aquitaine. Scutage thus represented a pivotal step toward modernizing military structures and consolidating royal authority. Castle control and defense. Henry II also implemented reforms to fortifications, asserting royal control over the construction and maintenance of castles. By restricting baronial fortification efforts and dismantling unauthorized strongholds, Henry curtailed the potential for rebellion and fortified his own defensive infrastructure. Investments in royal castles symbolized the king's dominance and provided strategic military advantages. These strongholds served as administrative centers and defensive bulwarks, deterring internal dissent and projecting the crown's authority across the realm. Resolving disputes and consolidating authority. Henry II's reign was characterized by his adept resolution of conflicts and his unwavering commitment to consolidating royal authority. His ability to navigate complex political and ecclesiastical disputes underscored his strategic acumen and reinforced the monarchy's supremacy. Thanks for listening. Like, comment, and subscribe to Medieval Chronicles 1066 for more explorations in medieval history. Stay curious. The later years of Henry II and his legacy. The later years of Henry II of England's reign stand as a profound study in the interplay between personal decline and political disintegration. Characterized by the king's deteriorating health, escalating familial betrayal, and strategic defeats, this period provides a crucial lens for understanding the multifaceted challenges that defined the Angevin dynasty. His death at Chinon in 1189 not only closed the chapter on a reign of extraordinary administrative and military innovation but also heralded a new and turbulent era for his successors. Let's examine the nuanced dynamics of Henry's waning authority, his ultimate defeat by his son Richard and Philip II of France, and the significant ramifications of his death for the medieval European political landscape. The decline of health and the fractured dynasty. By the mid-1180s, the physical vitality that had once defined Henry II's reign was visibly waning. Chronic conditions, likely including advanced arthritis and recurring intestinal ailments, compounded by the unrelenting demands of governance and military campaigning, rendered the king increasingly incapacitated. This physical decline coincided with an intensification of familial discord, as Henry's sons openly pursued their own ambitions at the expense of their father's authority. This convergence of personal and dynastic crises underscored the fragility of the Angevin Empire. While tensions within the royal family were not new, they reached their zenith during this period. The Great Revolt of 1173 to 1174, led by Henry the Young King, Richard, and Geoffrey, had already fractured the royal household, and the death of the young king in 1183 did little to restore equilibrium. Instead, Richard, Duke of Aquitaine, emerged as the most prominent challenger to Henry's authority. A critical source of tension arose from Henry's insistence that Richard relinquish Aquitaine to his younger brother John, a demand that Richard categorically rejected. The king's inability to enforce his will deepened the rift between father and son, setting the stage for a broader conflict that would encompass the entire Angevin dominion. The stakes of these familial betrayals were immense, given the vast territorial span of the Angevin Empire. Extending from England to the Pyrenees, the empire's cohesion relied on the active cooperation of its constituent rulers, especially Henry's sons. However, the brothers were more interested in consolidating their own power than in upholding their father's vision of unity. Geoffrey's death in 1186 removed one rival from the equation but heightened the animosity between Richard and John. Henry's evident favoritism toward John further alienated Richard, driving him into a politically advantageous alliance with Philip II of France. Henry's declining health exacerbated these tensions. Reports from chroniclers emphasize that his physical ailments left him increasingly reliant on his advisors and weakened his capacity for direct leadership. The once formidable ruler who had dominated European politics now appeared vulnerable, a factor that emboldened his adversaries both within and outside his family. His diminishing physical resilience mirrored the unraveling of his political authority, creating a feedback loop in which personal frailty and political instability reinforced one another. The ascendancy of Philip II and the collapse of Henry's power. Philip II of France emerged as a pivotal figure in the final unraveling of Henry II's authority. A calculating and ambitious monarch, Philip Adept exploited the divisions within the Angevin family to destabilize Henry's control. His partnership with Richard proved particularly consequential, as it combined Philip's strategic acumen with Richard's military prowess to devastating effect. Together, they launched a sustained campaign to undermine Henry's territorial holdings and diminish his prestige. The climactic phase of this conflict occurred in 1189. Besieged by illness and despair, Henry confronted a formidable coalition led by Richard and Philip. The fall of Le Mans, a city intimately tied to Henry's early life and symbolic of his rule, marked a critical moment in this campaign. Richard's forces, bolstered by Philip's resources, captured the city, forcing Henry into a humiliating retreat. This defeat not only weakened Henry militarily but also dealt a profound psychological blow, as he grappled with the erosion of his authority and the loyalty of his subjects. The Treaty of Azay-le-Rideau, signed in July 1189, formalized Henry's capitulation. Its terms were starkly humiliating. Henry was compelled to recognize Richard as his heir and cede significant concessions to Philip. The most devastating revelation, however, came when Henry learned that John, his previously trusted son, had also joined the rebellion against him. This ultimate betrayal reportedly shattered the king's spirit, prompting his lament, "Now let all things go as they will, I care no more for myself or for the world." Henry's concessions under the treaty represented more than the loss of territory, they signaled the dissolution of his authority as a monarch. The Angevin Empire, so painstakingly constructed over decades, was now fragmenting under the weight of internal discord and external pressure. This disintegration underscored the ephemeral nature of medieval empire building, where personal relationships and military might were often the only glue holding vast realms together. Death at Chinon and the aftermath. Following his defeat, Henry withdrew to Chinon, a fortress in Anjou, where his health deteriorated rapidly. Suffering from what modern historians suggest was a combination of sepsis and heart failure, the king's final days were marked by acute physical pain and emotional torment. Chroniclers recount that he died cursing his sons, particularly Richard, whom he blamed for orchestrating his downfall. On July 6, 1189, Henry II succumbed to his illnesses at the age of 56. The atmosphere at Chinon in Henry's final days was one of profound desolation. Reports describe a monarch physically ravaged and emotionally broken, isolated from the familial bonds that had once formed the core of his empire. His death was witnessed by only a handful of loyal attendants, a stark contrast to the grandeur that had characterized his earlier reign. This lonely demise symbolized the ultimate cost of the betrayals and conflicts that had defined his later years. Henry's death left a significant void in the political landscape of medieval Europe. Richard I ascended to the throne, but the empire he inherited was deeply fractured. Years of internal strife and external pressures had eroded the cohesion of the Angevin territories, and Richard's reign, while marked by military exploits, did little to restore stability. The Angevin Empire's gradual disintegration accelerated under subsequent rulers, culminating in the eventual loss of many continental holdings. Henry's death also shifted the balance of power in favor of Philip II. By systematically weakening the Angevin dynasty, Philip positioned France to pursue greater centralization and territorial expansion. This realignment of power would have profound implications for the future of both England and France, setting the stage for centuries of rivalry. Philip's success in undermining the Angevin Empire highlighted the strategic importance of exploiting internal divisions within rival dynasties, a lesson that would echo through European history. Historical interpretation and legacy. The twilight years of Henry II's reign epitomized the inherent vulnerabilities of medieval kingship, where personal relationships and political imperatives were often at odds. Henry's legacy as a lawgiver and administrator is undeniable. His reforms laid the foundation for many aspects of English governance. However, his inability to reconcile with his sons and his underestimation of Philip II's ambitions ultimately undermined his achievements. Scholars have long debated the extent to which Henry's decline was a product of his personal failings versus the structural challenges of the Angevin Empire. Some argue that the empire's sheer size and diversity rendered it inherently unstable, while others contend that Henry's favoritism and failure to establish clear lines of succession exacerbated existing tensions. Regardless of the precise causes, Henry's downfall illustrates the precarious nature of power in a world governed by shifting alliances and familial rivalries. In sum, the later years of Henry II's reign and his eventual death at Chinon stand as a poignant reminder of the complexities of medieval rule. His reign, though marked by extraordinary accomplishments, underscores the limits of authority and the enduring costs of political ambition in a volatile and unforgiving era. The trajectory of his later years, from his declining health and familial betrayals to his ultimate defeat, continues to resonate as a testament to the fragility of even the most formidable empires and the profound interplay between personal and political vulnerabilities. Henry II's legacy, influence, legal reforms, and historiographical interpretations. Henry II of England, the inaugural Plantagenet king, ruled from 1154 to 1189, ushering in a period of profound transformation in English governance and law. His reign established enduring patterns of kingship that shaped the monarchy for generations. Renowned for his legal innovations, centralization of authority, and formidable political acumen, Henry II's legacy remains a subject of intense scholarly scrutiny. Let us examine in more depth his influence on subsequent English monarchs, the far-reaching implications of his legal reforms, and historiographical interpretations of his reign, emphasizing the interplay between his substantial achievements and personal shortcomings. In analyzing his legacy, one must appreciate both the durability of his institutional changes and the challenges posed by his personal and political relationships, which collectively reveal the complexity of his kingship. Influence on subsequent English kings. Henry II's sons, Richard I and John, inherited not only the vast Angevin Empire but also the complex challenges and institutional frameworks he created. Their divergent reigns illuminate the strengths and limitations of Henry's political and administrative legacy, offering lessons in the precarious balance between centralized authority and the need for political flexibility. Richard I, warrior king and custodian of empire. Richard I, celebrated as the Lion Heart, exemplified the martial and administrative legacies of his father. Henry's efforts to consolidate the Angevin Empire laid the groundwork for Richard's ambitious military campaigns, particularly the Third Crusade. Henry's establishment of a robust administrative system, including a centralized treasury and an itinerant judiciary, ensured the empire's stability during Richard's prolonged absences. Indeed, Henry's financial systems funded the immense costs of Richard's crusading efforts, highlighting the enduring utility of his fiscal policies. Nonetheless, Richard's reliance on Henry's administrative structures exposed their limitations. His prioritization of military exploits, financed through heavy taxation, strained relations with his subjects and destabilized the empire's internal cohesion. This tension underscores the precarious balance between central authority and local governance that Henry had skillfully managed. While Richard's military successes elevated the prestige of the English crown, his inattention to domestic governance revealed the inherent vulnerability of Henry's imperial model when leadership prioritized external ventures over internal stability. John, the struggle to uphold a legacy. John's reign revealed the fragility of Henry's achievements when entrusted to a less adept monarch. While Henry had centralized royal authority, this often came at the expense of alienating key stakeholders such as the barons and clergy. John's autocratic tendencies and fiscal demands intensified these tensions, culminating in the baronial revolt and the issuance of Magna Carta in 1215. This pivotal document, while often viewed as a repudiation of royal overreach, relied heavily on the procedural and administrative systems Henry had established. The geopolitical vulnerabilities of the Angevin Empire, which Henry had maintained through personal dynamism and administrative innovations, became apparent under John. The loss of Normandy in 1204 exemplifies the structural weaknesses of an empire reliant on a strong central figure. Yet, John's dependence on Henry's legal and financial reforms highlights their enduring significance, even amidst political upheaval. The eventual institutionalization of Magna Carta's principles illustrates how Henry's reforms provided a framework for balancing monarchical power with emerging notions of accountability. Legal reforms and their impact on governance. Henry II's legal reforms represent one of his most enduring contributions, fundamentally transforming the administration of justice in England and influencing broader European legal traditions. These reforms laid the foundation for English common law and redefined the relationship between the monarchy and its subjects. Their longevity attests to their foundational role in shaping the English legal tradition and their adaptability to evolving political contexts. Centralization of justice. Driven by the need to consolidate royal authority, Henry implemented sweeping changes to standardize the judicial process. The Assize of Clarendon, 1166, and the Assize of Northampton, 1176, introduced systematic procedures for criminal justice, including the deployment of royal justices on circuit. These measures curtailed the power of feudal courts and extended the Crown's influence over legal adjudication. By doing so, Henry established a model of governance that prioritized centralized, impartial justice over localized, feudal arbitration. A pivotal innovation was the introduction of the jury system, initially as a mechanism for presenting accusations. Over time, this evolved into a cornerstone of English common law, emphasizing communal participation and procedural fairness. Henry's reforms marked a significant departure from traditional modes of trial, such as ordeal or combat, fostering a more rational and consistent legal framework. This innovation not only enhanced the accessibility of justice but also strengthened the Crown's role as the ultimate arbiter of disputes, embedding royal authority more deeply in local governance. Expansion of royal jurisdiction. Henry's reforms expanded royal jurisdiction at the expense of ecclesiastical and feudal courts. The Constitutions of Clarendon, 1164, sought to clarify the boundaries between secular and ecclesiastical authority, particularly in prosecuting criminal clerics. This effort, while inciting a protracted conflict with Thomas Becket, Archbishop of Canterbury, underscored Henry's commitment to asserting royal supremacy over legal matters. Though the controversy surrounding Becket's murder has overshadowed this initiative, the broader outcome was a more clearly defined scope of royal and ecclesiastical jurisdiction. The widespread use of writs, standardized legal instruments issued by the Crown, facilitated access to royal courts and generated significant revenue. Their popularity reflected the perception of royal courts as more impartial and efficient than feudal alternatives, further entrenching the Crown's role in governance. The writ system also exemplified Henry's pragmatic approach to governance, balancing the Crown's need for revenue with the provision of accessible justice. Influence beyond England. The impact of Henry's legal reforms extended beyond England, shaping governance in the Angevin territories and influencing continental legal traditions. His emphasis on record-keeping and systematic procedures resonated in European administrative practices. Furthermore, the principles of English common law, rooted in Henry's innovations, later informed the legal systems of former British colonies, including the United States, Canada, and India. These enduring legacies underscore the universality of Henry's legal principles and their adaptability to diverse contexts. Historiographical interpretations of Henry II. Henry II's reign has inspired a rich historiographical tradition, characterized by a dialectic between admiration for his achievements and critique of his personal flaws. Scholars continue to debate the extent to which his policies were driven by visionary reform versus pragmatic expediency. The evolution of historical interpretations reflects broader shifts in historiographical focus, from institutional histories to nuanced analyses of political and personal dynamics. Henry as a reformist monarch. Traditional historiography, informed by chroniclers such as William of Newburgh and Roger of Howden, often portrays Henry as a reformist monarch whose innovations in governance laid the groundwork for modern statecraft. Victorian historians, in particular, celebrated his centralization of authority and commitment to justice, casting him as a precursor to constitutional monarchy. This perspective emphasized his role as a forward-thinking statesman who reshaped the English monarchy into a more robust and centralized institution. Contemporary scholarship has nuanced this perspective, highlighting the pragmatic and sometimes coercive nature of Henry's reforms. For instance, the expansion of royal jurisdiction served not only to promote justice but also to consolidate power. Similarly, the revenue generated from legal processes underscores the fiscal motivations underlying his policies. While undeniably transformative, Henry's reforms were not entirely altruistic. Instead, they reflected a calculated strategy to enhance the Crown's authority while addressing the immediate challenges of governance. Personal flaws and political consequences. Henry's personal shortcomings, including his volatile temperament and contentious relationships with key figures, have significantly influenced interpretations of his reign. The murder of Thomas Becket in 1170, a consequence of Henry's aggressive approach to consolidating authority, remains a defining and controversial episode. While his direct culpability is debated, the incident highlighted the risks of his confrontational style and underscored the limitations of his political strategy. Henry's tumultuous relationships with his wife, Eleanor of Aquitaine, and his sons further complicated his legacy. The revolt of 1173–74, in which his sons allied with Eleanor and foreign powers against him, exposed the vulnerabilities of his empire and underscored the personal dimension of his political challenges. This familial discord, while destabilizing, also reflected the inherent difficulties of maintaining cohesion within a dynastic empire as vast and diverse as the Angevin realm. The duality of Henry's legacy. Historians have grappled with the duality of Henry's legacy, a ruler whose achievements in governance and law were offset by his failures to maintain familial and political harmony. W. L. Warren's biography, Henry II, 1973, epitomizes this balanced approach, acknowledging both his administrative brilliance and his personal destructiveness. Subsequent scholarship has built on this foundation, exploring the interplay of innovation and conflict in his reign. By situating Henry's achievements within the broader context of medieval kingship, modern historians have deepened our understanding of the enduring impact of his rule. Recent studies have delved into the cultural and symbolic dimensions of Henry's kingship, examining his patronage of literature, use of royal imagery, and engagement with intellectual currents. These analyses enrich our understanding of his reign, situating his achievements within the broader context of medieval European monarchy. Moreover, the emphasis on symbolic representations of power reflects the evolving role of the monarchy as both a political and cultural institution during Henry's era. The life and reign of Henry II, one of England's most consequential and transformative monarchs, demand a nuanced exploration of themes that profoundly influenced the medieval period and shaped the trajectory of English and European history. This analysis synthesizes the principal themes of his life and rule, highlighting his enduring impact and the historical currents he navigated. The formative and defining themes of Henry II's life and reign. The restoration and consolidation of royal authority. Ascending to power during the turbulence following King Stephen's reign, Henry II faced the monumental task of restoring order and reasserting royal authority. His efforts to stabilize a fractured polity redefined the monarchy's role, emphasizing centralized governance and the crown's supremacy. Through calculated measures, Henry subdued rebellious barons, reclaimed royal lands, and reasserted control over castles, establishing a stable framework for governance. This restoration of authority not only brought cohesion to a fragmented realm but also set a precedent for the monarchy's ability to command loyalty and enforce law across diverse and far-reaching territories. The development of legal reforms. Henry II's reign marked a watershed moment in the evolution of the English legal system. By institutionalizing reforms through measures such as the Assizes of Clarendon, 1166, and Northampton, 1176, Henry laid the groundwork for what would become the common law tradition. These reforms standardized judicial procedures, expanded the reach of royal justice, and established enduring principles such as the use of juries and reliance on written records. By promoting uniformity and accessibility, Henry's legal innovations not only reinforced royal authority but also established mechanisms of accountability that continue to underpin legal systems globally. Conflict with the Church. The clash between Henry II and the Church, exemplified by his protracted conflict with Archbishop Thomas Becket, epitomizes the enduring struggle between secular and ecclesiastical power in medieval Europe. The Constitutions of Clarendon, 1164, symbolized Henry's attempt to curtail the Church's autonomy and assert royal jurisdiction over clerics. This confrontation culminated in Becket's martyrdom in 1170, a pivotal event that reshaped perceptions of the monarchy's relationship with spiritual authority. The broader implications of this conflict extended far beyond Henry's reign, influencing church-state relations and debates on governance throughout medieval Christendom. The Angevin Empire, a political and geopolitical achievement. Henry II's creation and administration of the Angevin Empire stand as a testament to his political acumen and strategic vision. Spanning territories from the Scottish border to the Pyrenees, the empire's unprecedented expanse posed unique challenges of governance. Henry's ability to navigate diverse legal traditions, cultures, and local power structures was unparalleled, though the empire's inherent instability made it difficult to sustain. The Angevin Empire's eventual fragmentation highlighted the limits of medieval kingship and territorial governance. Nonetheless, its legacy endures as a model of transnational administration and as a precursor to later imperial frameworks. Familial discord and dynastic challenges. Henry's personal life was defined by profound familial discord that mirrored the complexities of dynastic politics in the medieval period. His marriage to Eleanor of Aquitaine, a union of political and cultural significance, proved both a source of strength and division. The rebellion of his sons, Henry the Young King, Richard, Geoffrey, and John, against their father underscored the fragility of dynastic unity. These internal conflicts not only complicated Henry's efforts to consolidate power but also revealed the intricate balance between personal loyalty and institutional stability within medieval polities. Despite these challenges, Henry's endeavors secured the continuation of his lineage, though the transitions were often fraught with turmoil. Economic and administrative innovations. Henry II's reign was marked by significant advancements in economic management and administrative efficiency. By refining tax collection systems, standardizing coinage, and developing financial institutions such as the Exchequer, Henry strengthened the economic foundation of his realm. These innovations enabled the effective governance of a sprawling empire and established enduring standards for fiscal accountability and resource management. Such developments reflected Henry's commitment to modernizing the administrative machinery of medieval governance, setting a template for subsequent monarchs. The enduring impact of Henry II's governance. The legacy of Henry II extends far beyond the temporal boundaries of his reign, influencing legal, political, and cultural developments across Europe. His legal reforms laid the cornerstone for the common law tradition, which would serve as a foundational principle for constitutional governance. The emphasis on centralized authority and administrative competence during his reign provided a model for effective statecraft, inspiring future monarchs to adopt similar approaches. The Angevin Empire, despite its eventual dissolution, offered valuable insights into the possibilities and limitations of managing extensive and diverse territories. It prefigured later European empires and highlighted the importance of balancing local autonomy with centralized control. The cultural and political networks fostered by the Angevin realm enriched European civilization and underscored the interconnectedness of medieval polities. Henry's contentious relationship with the Church raised enduring questions about the balance of power between secular and spiritual authorities. The debates ignited during his reign resonated throughout the Middle Ages, shaping the discourse on governance and ecclesiastical influence in European history. Furthermore, Henry II's reign serves as a case study in the complexities of medieval kingship. His successes and failures illuminate the dynamic interplay between personal leadership, institutional frameworks, and the broader socio-political context. As both a reformer and a ruler, Henry grappled with the constraints of his time while leaving a legacy that continues to inform our understanding of power and governance. Henry II's enduring legacy. The reign of Henry II represents a transformative epoch in English and European history. His achievements in restoring royal authority, pioneering legal reforms, and establishing the Angevin Empire reflect his vision and capability as a ruler. Simultaneously, his struggles, whether with the Church, his family, or the inherent challenges of governing a vast and heterogeneous domain, underscore the inherent tensions of medieval kingship. The themes of his reign, the pursuit of justice, the consolidation of authority, the intricacies of familial and dynastic politics, and the aspiration to create a lasting legacy, resonate through centuries. Henry II's life offers profound insights into the exercise of power, the fragility of political constructs, and the enduring impact of innovative governance. As a monarch who redefined his world, Henry's legacy continues to inspire and challenge interpretations of medieval kingship and its far-reaching implications for the development of statecraft and law. Thanks for listening. Like, comment, and subscribe to Medieval Chronicles 1066 for more journeys back to the Middle Ages. Stay curious. Richard the Lionheart's early life. Richard I of England, known as Richard the Lionheart, remains one of history's most iconic monarchs. Born on September 8, 1157, in Oxford, he was the third son of King Henry II and Eleanor of Aquitaine. Ascending the throne in 1189, his reign of just 10 years left an indelible mark on both his kingdom and the wider European stage. While his tenure as king was short, Richard's influence as a military leader, cultural figure, and symbol of knightly virtues has transcended centuries, continuing to captivate scholars and enthusiasts of medieval history. Let's examine his early life. Richard's mother, Eleanor of Aquitaine, was a pivotal influence in shaping his character and outlook. Renowned for her intelligence, political acumen, and cultural sophistication, Eleanor was among the most powerful figures of her time. As the Duchess of Aquitaine and Queen Consort of both France and England, she brought immense authority and prestige to her role as Richard's parent. Her court in Aquitaine was a vibrant hub of artistic and intellectual life, characterized by the flourishing of troubadour culture, poetry, and philosophical inquiry. This dynamic environment profoundly influenced Richard's formative years, instilling in him a deep appreciation for both the arts and the ideals of knighthood. Eleanor's guidance extended beyond her role as a mother. She served as a model of political savvy and strategic foresight, demonstrating the skills necessary to navigate the turbulent landscape of medieval European power struggles. Managing her vast territories with efficiency and fostering a culture of intellectual enrichment, Eleanor imparted to Richard the values of diplomacy, courtly behavior, and effective governance. Her ability to maintain authority amidst familial conflicts and shifting political alliances provided him with critical lessons in leadership and resilience. Richard's youth in Aquitaine further shaped his identity and ambitions. Immersed in the region's rich cultural traditions, he was exposed to the ideals of chivalry, valor, and loyalty that defined the troubadour ethos. The celebration of themes such as romantic love and knightly honor left a lasting impression on Richard, who would later compose his own poetry and songs. These creative pursuits were not merely personal indulgences, but reflections of the cultural milieu that he championed, solidifying his reputation as a sophisticated and charismatic leader. Aquitaine also fostered Richard's development as a French-speaking nobleman. This bilingual proficiency and cultural integration were critical assets, enabling him to navigate the complexities of ruling over territories in both England and France. His ability to engage effectively with diverse subjects and allies was a hallmark of his leadership, bridging cultural divides and strengthening his position as a monarch in a fragmented medieval world. This dual identity enriched Richard's rule, blending the influences of his English heritage and continental upbringing. Richard's deep connection to Aquitaine was evident in his loyalty to its people and traditions. As a young duke, he demonstrated a steadfast commitment to defending his ancestral lands against external threats and internal dissent. These formative experiences honed his military skills and leadership abilities, preparing him for the demands of kingship. His actions in Aquitaine reflected a profound sense of responsibility to preserve the legacy of his lineage and uphold the values of his homeland. Richard's reputation as a military leader was established early through his efforts to secure his family's territories. Facing rebellions and rival factions, he displayed remarkable strategic acumen and determination. These early conflicts provided him with invaluable experience in warfare and diplomacy, laying the foundation for his later achievements on the broader stage of European politics. By the time he ascended to the throne, Richard was already celebrated as a formidable commander, capable of navigating the intricate dynamics of feudal allegiances and territorial ambitions. The cultural and political environment that shaped Richard's early life continued to influence his reign as king. His commitment to the ideals of chivalry and cultural patronage became defining features of his leadership. While his reign was often consumed by military campaigns, particularly the Third Crusade, Richard remained deeply connected to the values instilled during his youth. His ability to inspire loyalty among his followers and to embody the virtues of a knightly ruler cemented his legacy as one of medieval Europe's most celebrated figures. In conclusion, Richard the Lionheart's life and reign were shaped by the profound influence of his mother, Eleanor of Aquitaine, and the cultural richness of his upbringing in Aquitaine. His exposure to the ideals of chivalry, loyalty, and cultural sophistication forged a leader whose legacy endures as a symbol of knightly valor and medieval kingship. Despite the challenges and conflicts that marked his reign, Richard's ability to lead, inspire, and uphold the values of his era ensures his place in history. His story offers a compelling exploration of the interplay between cultural heritage, personal ambition, and the demands of leadership in one of Europe's most dynamic periods. Today, Richard remains a testament to the enduring allure of courage, honor, and the pursuit of greatness. Thanks for listening. Like, comment, and subscribe to Medieval Chronicles 1066 for more journeys back to the Middle Ages. Stay curious. Richard I becomes king. What do you know about Richard's accession to the English throne in 1189? How was it marked by the culmination of years of familial conflict and political upheaval? His father, Henry II, had spent much of his reign managing rebellions from his sons, including Richard, whose aspirations for control over Aquitaine frequently brought him into direct opposition with his father. These conflicts were deeply rooted in both personal family dynamics and the broader territorial ambitions that defined the period. Henry II's reign was defined by his efforts to consolidate power over the Angevin Empire, a vast domain stretching across England, much of France, and parts of Ireland. While his political and military strategies were effective in expanding his influence, the size and diversity of the empire made it difficult to govern effectively. Adding to this challenge were his son's ambitions, which continually undermined Henry's authority. Henry the young king, crowned during his father's lifetime, resented the lack of substantive power he was given, while Richard and his brothers Geoffrey and John alternately collaborated and competed to expand their own territories and influence. At the heart of Richard's tensions with Henry II was control over Aquitaine, a duchy of immense strategic and economic importance inherited from his mother, Eleanor of Aquitaine. Eleanor, one of the most formidable political figures of her time, championed Richard's claim to the region, further straining her already tenuous relationship with Henry II. Aquitaine's wealth and prominence made it a key point of contention, and Richard's determination to assert his authority there often resulted in open rebellion against his father. These disputes were emblematic of the broader challenge of managing the loyalties and resources of such a sprawling empire. The political struggles within the Angevin dynasty were further complicated by the involvement of the French crown. Kings Louis VII and Philip II of France strategically exploited the divisions within Henry II's family to weaken Angevin power. Richard's alliance with Philip II was particularly significant, as it provided him with military and diplomatic support against Henry II. These alliances were not merely tactical but also reflective of the intertwined nature of European politics during the era, where family conflicts often had international implications. Eleanor of Aquitaine's role in these events cannot be overstated. As both Richard's mother and a skilled political operator, she was instrumental in shaping the course of his career. Her imprisonment by Henry II, intended to neutralize her influence, instead became a symbol of the deep fractures within the Angevin family. Upon Henry's death, Richard's release of Eleanor underscored her centrality to his reign. She would go on to play a vital role in his court, working to stabilize the realm and counterbalance the ambitions of figures like John. Henry II's death in 1189, brought on by illness and the cumulative stress of decades of familial discord, cleared the way for Richard's accession. While this transition represented an opportunity for renewal, it also carried forward the unresolved tensions and power struggles that had defined his father's reign. The events leading to Henry's death were emblematic of the deep divisions within the Angevin dynasty. Betrayed by his sons, including Richard, and forced to cede significant territory to his rival Philip II of France, Henry died feeling abandoned and defeated. Richard's rise to power was not merely the result of inheritance, it was a calculated series of maneuvers that underscored his political acumen, military prowess, and determination to assert his authority. Richard's ascension was met with both relief and skepticism. Among the English nobility and commoners, there was hope that the new king would bring stability to the realm after years of internal strife. However, Richard's immediate focus on his crusading ambitions, rather than domestic governance, signaled continuity in the challenges faced by the Angevin Empire. His ability to secure the throne rested not only on his claim as Henry's eldest surviving son, but also on his strategic alliances and the loyalty of key supporters. Richard had previously aligned himself with Philip II, exploiting their shared interest in undermining Henry II's power. This alliance, though temporary, allowed Richard to strengthen his position and emerge as the uncontested heir upon his father's death. The transition of power also highlighted the critical role of Eleanor of Aquitaine, who worked tirelessly to consolidate support for Richard. Her release from imprisonment by Henry shortly before his death enabled her to rally key factions within the Angevin Empire and counter the ambitions of Richard's younger brother John. Eleanor's influence extended beyond England, as she leveraged her extensive network of alliances in Aquitaine and other regions to secure Richard's position as king. Her role in the early days of Richard's reign exemplifies her enduring political acumen and her commitment to the stability of the Angevin dynasty. Despite the challenges of the succession, Richard moved quickly to establish his authority. He organized a grand coronation ceremony, emphasizing his legitimacy and divine right to rule. The coronation was marked by a display of wealth and power designed to unify his subjects and affirm his status as a strong and capable monarch. However, Richard's immediate departure for the Holy Land to lead the Third Crusade left the kingdom vulnerable to internal discord and external threats. This decision underscored the dual nature of his reign, one defined by both extraordinary military ambition and the persistent fragility of his domestic realm. As king, Richard's focus shifted to the Third Crusade, where he sought to solidify his reputation as a military leader and secure Christian control over key territories in the Holy Land. His campaigns in the region, particularly his role in the capture of Acre and his strategic negotiations with Saladin, cemented his status as one of the most celebrated warrior kings of the medieval period. Richard's leadership at Acre showcased his tactical acumen and ability to rally forces from diverse European factions, ensuring a significant victory for the Crusaders. Following the fall of Acre, Richard's determination to march toward Jerusalem, despite logistical challenges and dissension among his allies, highlighted his resolve and vision as a leader. Richard's interactions with Saladin, the formidable Muslim leader, added a layer of complexity to the crusade. The two leaders, while adversaries on the battlefield, engaged in a series of diplomatic exchanges that reflected mutual respect and strategic pragmatism. These negotiations, which included discussions on a potential marriage alliance between Richard's sister Joan and Saladin's brother, revealed Richard's willingness to explore unconventional solutions to achieve stability in the region. Although Jerusalem remained outside Crusader control, Richard's efforts resulted in the Treaty of Jaffa, which secured safe passage for Christian pilgrims and established a fragile truce between the warring factions. However, Richard's near-constant absence from England during the Crusade created a significant power vacuum. In his absence, his younger brother John and Chancellor William Longchamp vied for control, each seeking to consolidate their influence within the kingdom. Longchamp's unpopularity and authoritarian governance alienated the nobility, while John's opportunistic maneuvers threatened the stability of the Angevin Empire. John's actions, including attempts to align with Philip II of France, exacerbated existing tensions and highlighted the vulnerabilities of Richard's absentee kingship. The instability at home mirrored the broader divisions within the Angevin dynasty, where familial ambition often undermined collective strength. Richard's focus on his crusading ambitions, while enhancing his legacy as a military leader, left his kingdom exposed to both internal discord and external threats. His absence also strained the kingdom's resources, as the costs of supporting the crusade placed a heavy burden on the treasury and fueled resentment among his subjects. Despite these challenges, Richard's return from the Holy Land brought renewed efforts to stabilize his realm and address the pressing issues that had arisen during his prolonged absence. His crusading exploits had solidified his reputation as a formidable military leader, earning him admiration across Christendom. However, the toll of his absence on the Angevin Empire was undeniable. Regions that had once been firmly under his control faced increased threats from rivals like Philip II of France, and his brother John's opportunism had sown seeds of discord among the English nobility. Richard returned to a kingdom that required immediate and decisive action to restore stability and reaffirm his authority. One of Richard's first priorities upon his return was to reclaim the lands and castles seized by Philip II during his captivity. This led to a series of military campaigns across Normandy and Aquitaine, where Richard's tactical brilliance was once again on display. These campaigns were characterized by rapid sieges, strategic use of fortified positions, and Richard's ability to inspire loyalty among his troops. The construction of Château Galad in Normandy became a symbol of his determination to defend his territories against French encroachment. The fortress, both a defensive stronghold and a statement of power, demonstrated Richard's commitment to securing the Angevin Empire's northern borders. Domestically, Richard faced the challenge of repairing the fractured alliances within his kingdom. John's attempts to usurp power during Richard's absence had alienated key barons, and restoring their loyalty required a combination of concessions, displays of strength, and diplomatic skill. Richard's ability to mend these relationships, while maintaining the loyalty of the broader nobility, was crucial in stabilizing his realm. His return also marked a renewed focus on economic reforms to recover the substantial costs of his ransom and military campaigns. Increased taxation and reforms in the collection of revenues were implemented, though these measures were not without controversy, as they placed additional burdens on the English populace. Richard's efforts to stabilize his kingdom were further complicated by the continued ambitions of his rivals. Philip II, undeterred by Richard's return, continued to press for control over disputed territories in France. This rivalry culminated in numerous skirmishes and battles that defined the latter years of Richard's reign. Despite the ongoing conflict, Richard's leadership ensured that the Angevin Empire remained resilient, even in the face of significant external pressure. The dual nature of Richard's reign, as both a crusading hero and a domestic ruler, highlighted the complexities of medieval kingship. His ability to balance the demands of international ambition with the realities of governing a diverse and often fractious empire remains a testament to his political acumen and strategic insight. Richard's reign serves as a compelling case study in the challenges of medieval leadership, where the pursuit of glory on the battlefield was often juxtaposed with the pragmatic needs of governance. The familial conflicts that characterized Henry II's reign left a lasting legacy, shaping not only Richard's reign but also the broader trajectory of the English monarchy. Richard's strained relationship with John, for instance, would have profound implications for the future of the Angevin Empire. John's eventual accession was marked by both the opportunities and challenges created during Richard's reign, particularly in the context of territorial disputes and political instability. Richard's reign was further shaped by his reliance on key alliances and his strategic positioning within broader European politics. His early alliance with Philip II of France, forged during their mutual opposition to Henry II, provided Richard with crucial support in his bid for power. However, this partnership eventually unraveled, evolving into a bitter rivalry that dominated the latter part of Richard's reign. This rivalry underscored the interconnectedness of European politics, where shifting loyalties and competing ambitions often dictated the actions of monarchs. For Richard, maintaining a balance between securing his domestic realm and managing his continental holdings required constant vigilance and adaptability. The rivalry with Philip II became particularly intense following Richard's return from the Crusade. Philip had capitalized on Richard's absence, seizing Angevin territories in Normandy and forging alliances with disaffected nobles. Upon his return, Richard launched a series of military campaigns to reclaim these lands, demonstrating his tactical brilliance and determination. His efforts culminated in the construction of Château Galad, a formidable fortress that served as both a defensive stronghold and a symbol of Angevin resilience. This structure, strategically positioned to defend Normandy against French incursions, exemplified Richard's commitment to preserving his empire. Despite their animosity, Richard and Philip were often forced to engage in diplomacy, highlighting the precariousness of medieval alliances. Truces were negotiated and broken as circumstances shifted, with both monarchs seeking to exploit any advantage. These interactions reflected the broader dynamics of European politics, where personal relationships and territorial ambitions were deeply intertwined. For Richard, the rivalry with Philip was not just a struggle for land but also a contest for dominance and prestige on the European stage. Eleanor of Aquitaine's continued involvement in the politics of the Angevin Empire during this period exemplified her remarkable influence and resilience. After her release from imprisonment, Eleanor became a key advisor and stabilizing force in Richard's reign. Her ability to navigate the complex political landscape of the time not only bolstered Richard's rule but also helped mitigate some of the tensions within the Angevin family. Eleanor's diplomatic efforts with the French crown were particularly significant. Despite the hostilities between Richard and Philip, Eleanor worked tirelessly to maintain channels of communication and secure favorable terms for her son. Eleanor's role extended beyond diplomacy with France. She was instrumental in maintaining the loyalty of key vassals across the Angevin territories, leveraging her extensive network of alliances to counteract the destabilizing effects of Richard's frequent absences. Her political acumen was evident in her ability to reconcile competing interests within the empire, ensuring that Richard could focus on his military campaigns without the constant threat of internal rebellion. Eleanor's efforts were critical in allowing Richard to pursue his crusading ambitions and defend the Angevin Empire against external threats. The Third Crusade, a defining feature of Richard's reign, provides a comprehensive lens through which to examine the broader geopolitical, cultural, and military dynamics of the medieval world. For Richard, the crusade was not merely a religious endeavor but also an opportunity to cement his legacy as one of Christendom's greatest warrior kings. His military successes, particularly the capture of Acre, demonstrated his strategic acumen and ability to unify disparate crusader factions under his leadership. The Siege of Acre, which was among the most significant engagements of the crusade, tested Richard's logistical planning and his ability to command an international force comprised of knights and soldiers from multiple European kingdoms. Following the victory at Acre, Richard's meticulous organization of the Crusader army enabled further advances into Muslim-held territory, solidifying his reputation as a brilliant tactician. Richard's military confrontations with Saladin, one of the most formidable leaders of the medieval Islamic world, became legendary. While their armies clashed on the battlefield, the relationship between Richard and Saladin was characterized by a surprising degree of mutual respect. Both leaders recognized the strategic importance of diplomacy, and their negotiations often reflected a pragmatic understanding of the limits of their respective positions. For instance, Richard's proposal for a marriage alliance between his sister Joan and Saladin's brother, while ultimately unrealized, demonstrated his willingness to explore unconventional means of achieving peace. These diplomatic exchanges reveal a nuanced perspective on the Crusades, challenging simplistic depictions of the era as a monolithic clash between Christians and Muslims. One of Richard's most significant accomplishments during the crusade was the Treaty of Jaffa, which he negotiated with Saladin in 1192. This treaty secured Christian access to Jerusalem for pilgrims and established a truce that temporarily halted hostilities between the two factions. Although the Crusaders failed to reclaim Jerusalem, the treaty underscored Richard's ability to achieve meaningful results through diplomacy as well as warfare. The negotiations reflected Richard's understanding of the geopolitical complexities of the region and his recognition of the practical constraints on both sides. This diplomatic achievement further solidified Richard's standing as a capable and adaptable leader. The logistical and financial challenges of the crusade, however, highlighted the immense costs of such an undertaking. The crusade required significant resources to sustain the army, maintain supply lines, and fund military operations. These demands placed an extraordinary strain on the Angevin Empire's economy, leading to increased taxation and widespread discontent at home. The financial burden of the crusade also necessitated reliance on church contributions and the sale of royal lands and titles, further complicating domestic governance. These challenges reveal the delicate balance Richard had to maintain between his international ambitions and the economic stability of his realm. Culturally, the interactions between Crusaders and the Muslim world during Richard's campaigns fostered exchanges of knowledge, technology, and traditions. While the primary focus of the Crusades was military, the encounters between these civilizations facilitated a degree of mutual influence that had lasting implications for both Europe and the Islamic world. Innovations in fortification design, medical practices, and trade networks were among the areas where these exchanges had a tangible impact, challenging narratives that portray the Crusades solely as a period of conflict and hostility. Richard the Lionheart's return from the Holy Land, his capture and ransom, his death, and his enduring legacy represent a pivotal chapter in medieval English history. These events highlight the fragile balance of power in Europe, the personal trials of a monarch, and the long-lasting influence of Richard's reign on his contemporaries and subsequent generations. The journey home from the Crusades. After securing the Treaty of Jaffa in 1192, which established a fragile truce with Saladin and allowed Christian pilgrims access to Jerusalem, Richard I began his journey home. The treaty, while a compromise, underscored Richard's skill as a military strategist and negotiator, cementing his reputation as a brilliant leader in both warfare and diplomacy. Despite its limited achievements, it demonstrated Richard's ability to extract significant gains even in the face of insurmountable challenges. Richard's return, however, was fraught with peril. Europe's political landscape was rife with danger, as his rival, Philip II of France, and his brother, John, sought to exploit his absence. To evade capture by hostile forces, Richard opted for a treacherous overland route through Central Europe, a decision born of necessity but fraught with risk. His journey was marked by disguises and subterfuge, as he sought to avoid the many enemies who awaited an opportunity to capture or kill him. Capture and imprisonment. In December 1192, Richard's luck ran out when he was captured near Vienna by Leopold V, Duke of Austria. Officially, this capture stemmed from a personal insult Richard had delivered during the Crusades by removing Leopold's banner from the walls of Acre. However, the true motives were deeply political, reflecting the complex web of alliances and enmities that defined the European power structure. Leopold handed Richard over to Henry VI, Holy Roman Emperor, who viewed the English king's capture as an opportunity to demand an enormous ransom and assert imperial authority. Richard's imprisonment threw England into a state of uncertainty and turmoil. His brother John, in league with Philip II, sought to capitalize on the king's absence, conspiring to seize the throne. Meanwhile, the English regency faced the monumental task of raising the staggering ransom of 150,000 marks, a sum equivalent to several years' worth of royal revenue. This immense cost necessitated extraordinary measures, including heavy taxation and contributions from the clergy and nobility. The process of collecting the ransom highlighted the king's enduring influence and the loyalty he inspired, even among a populace burdened by his financial demands. During his captivity, Richard's charisma and indomitable spirit further bolstered his legendary status. Stories of his bravery and resourcefulness spread throughout Europe, portraying him as a leader undaunted by adversity. Richard's ability to charm his captors and maintain his dignity in imprisonment enhanced his mystique. In February 1194, after more than a year in captivity, the ransom was paid, and Richard was released. His return to England was triumphant, but his focus quickly shifted to reclaiming lost territories and countering the ambitions of Philip II. Final campaigns and death. The final years of Richard's life were consumed by his relentless efforts to secure his continental holdings and reassert his dominance over the Angevin Empire. His campaigns against Philip II of France showcased his tactical brilliance and unwavering determination. Richard's military exploits included both pitched battles and intricate sieges, reflecting his adaptability and strategic vision. However, these campaigns placed enormous strain on the resources of his empire, underscoring the challenges of maintaining a vast and fragmented realm. In 1199, Richard's pursuit of territorial consolidation brought him to the castle of Châles-Chabrol in Aquitaine. While overseeing the siege, Richard was struck by a crossbow bolt. Though initially considered a minor injury, the wound became gangrenous, leading to his death on April 6, 1199. His final moments were reportedly marked by acts of chivalry. He pardoned the crossbowman who had struck him, a gesture that further solidified his reputation as a noble and magnanimous leader. Richard's death marked the end of an era, leaving the throne to his brother John, whose reign would be fraught with internal strife and territorial losses. Legacy. Richard's legacy is a study in contrasts. Celebrated as a paragon of chivalry and a warrior king, he earned the moniker Cœur de Lion, Lionheart, for his courage and martial prowess. His exploits during the Crusades cemented his status as a legendary figure in medieval and later historiography. Poets, chroniclers, and artists have immortalized him as a larger-than-life hero, emblematic of the ideals of knighthood and honor. Yet, Richard's reign was also marked by significant shortcomings. His near-constant absence from England and the financial strain of his campaigns placed a heavy burden on his kingdom. He spent only a few months in England during his decade-long rule, treating it primarily as a source of revenue to fund his ambitions. The heavy taxation required to finance his ransom and military ventures fostered resentment among his subjects, straining the relationship between the crown and the nobility. Richard's death created a leadership vacuum that his brother John struggled to fill. John's inability to maintain the Angevin Empire and his contentious relationship with the English barons culminated in the signing of the Magna Carta in 1215, a milestone in the evolution of constitutional governance. Thus, while Richard's reign is often remembered for its heroism, its consequences profoundly shaped the future trajectory of the English monarchy. Culturally, Richard's interactions with figures like Saladin during the Crusades offer a more nuanced understanding of this period. Their mutual respect and diplomatic exchanges challenge simplistic narratives of the Crusades as a binary clash of civilizations. Moreover, the exchange of knowledge, traditions, and innovations, from advancements in fortification and siege warfare to medical practices, highlights the interconnectedness of medieval societies. Richard's role in fostering these exchanges, whether intentional or incidental, underscores the complexity of his legacy. In conclusion, Richard the Lionheart's return from the Holy Land, his capture and ransom, his untimely death, and his multifaceted legacy encapsulate the complexities of medieval kingship. His reign, though brief and fraught with challenges, continues to captivate the historical imagination. Richard's larger-than-life persona, his military genius, and the enduring impact of his actions ensure his place as one of the most iconic and debated figures of the medieval era. By examining both his triumphs and his flaws, we gain a deeper appreciation for the intricate dynamics of power, culture, and legacy in the Middle Ages. Thanks for listening. Like, comment, and subscribe to Medieval Chronicles 1066 for more journeys back to the Middle Ages. Stay curious. Causes of the Third Crusade. Introduction. The Third Crusade, 1189 to 1192, represents one of the most complex and transformative events of the medieval period, driven by a mix of religious, political, and economic motives. Sparked by the fall of Jerusalem to Saladin in 1187, the campaign sought to restore Christian control over the Holy Land. However, its roots extend far deeper into the socio-political and religious dynamics of the 12th century. By examining the intricate historical context, fervent religious motivations, and the broader political and economic conditions that led to the Third Crusade, we can better understand its significance in medieval history. Let's explore the consequences of earlier crusades, the rise of Saladin as a unifying force in the Muslim world, and the pivotal role played by religious ideology. We will also analyze the ambitions of European monarchs and the economic incentives that shaped the Crusades' goals and logistics. Through this comprehensive exploration, the causes of the Third Crusade will emerge as a confluence of spiritual conviction, political strategy, and material aspirations. These elements combine to create a multifaceted response to a historic moment, demonstrating the interplay between faith and politics in shaping human events. Historical background. The roots of the Third Crusade trace back to the outcomes of the First and Second Crusades, both of which profoundly shaped the socio-political and religious dynamics of the medieval world. The First Crusade, 1096 to 1099, marked the beginning of a new era of Christian military campaigns aimed at reclaiming the Holy Land from Muslim control. Initiated by Pope Urban II, the campaign successfully captured Jerusalem and established several Crusader states, including the Kingdom of Jerusalem, the County of Edessa, and the Principality of Antioch. These states served as critical footholds for Christendom in the Levant, but were perpetually vulnerable, surrounded by hostile Muslim powers and dependent on support from Europe. Despite the initial success of the First Crusade, maintaining control over these territories proved challenging. The Crusader states were isolated from Europe by vast distances and hostile lands, making the flow of reinforcements and supplies difficult. Moreover, internal divisions among the Crusaders weakened their ability to respond effectively to external threats. These vulnerabilities became starkly evident during the Second Crusade, 1147 to 1150, which was launched in response to the fall of Edessa, the northernmost Crusader state. Unlike its predecessor, the Second Crusade ended in failure, with the European forces unable to achieve their objectives. This defeat emboldened Muslim leaders and revealed the strategic weaknesses of the Crusader states, setting the stage for further conflicts. The rise of Saladin was a pivotal development in the Muslim response to the Crusader presence. Born in 1137, Saladin, Salah ad-Din Yusuf ibn Ayyub, emerged as a unifying figure capable of bringing together the fragmented Muslim polities of the region. As the founder of the Ayyubid dynasty, Saladin demonstrated exceptional political acumen and military skill. His campaigns against the Crusaders were not only motivated by the desire to reclaim lost territories but also by a deep commitment to Islamic unity and the defense of the faith. Under his leadership, the Muslim forces achieved a level of cohesion that had previously been lacking, enabling them to challenge the Crusaders more effectively. The turning point came in 1187 at the Battle of Hattin, a confrontation that would have far-reaching consequences for both the Muslim and Christian worlds. Saladin's forces decisively defeated the Crusader armies, capturing key leaders and securing control over vital territories. The aftermath of the battle saw the fall of Jerusalem, a city of unparalleled religious significance to Christians, Muslims, and Jews alike. For Christendom, the loss of Jerusalem was a profound shock, sparking widespread calls for a new crusade to reclaim the Holy City. The events leading up to the Third Crusade highlighted the importance of strategic unity and effective leadership. The internal divisions within the Crusader states, coupled with the growing strength of Saladin's forces, created a situation in which the Christian hold on the Holy Land became increasingly tenuous. These dynamics underscore the need for a coordinated response from Europe, one that could address both the military challenges posed by Saladin and the broader ideological and political stakes of the conflict. The call for the Third Crusade thus represented not only a reaction to immediate military losses but also an effort to reassert Christian dominance in a region that held immense symbolic and strategic value. The broader historical context of the Third Crusade also reveals the interplay of religious and political forces in shaping medieval society. The Crusades were not merely military campaigns but also expressions of a deeply rooted cultural and spiritual identity. For European leaders, participation in the Crusades offered an opportunity to demonstrate their piety, enhance their prestige, and secure their legacies. At the same time, the campaigns reflected the growing centralization of authority within European monarchies, as kings sought to mobilize resources and assert their leadership in the face of shared challenges. The historical background of the Third Crusade thus provides a rich tapestry of interconnected events and motivations. From the successes and failures of earlier crusades to the rise of Saladin and the shifting dynamics of power in the medieval world, this period was marked by profound transformations that set the stage for one of the most significant campaigns in the history of Christendom. Understanding this context is essential to appreciating the complexity and significance of the Third Crusade as a moment of convergence between faith, politics, and human ambition. Religious motivations. At the heart of the Third Crusade was an intense and pervasive sense of religious duty that permeated every aspect of medieval life. Religion served as both a catalyst and a unifying force, mobilizing entire societies to commit resources, energy, and lives to the cause of reclaiming Jerusalem. Pope Gregory VIII's issuance of the papal bull Audita Tremendi in 1187 exemplified this call to faith. This papal document did not merely request assistance, it demanded action, portraying the crusade as a divine obligation to avenge the desecration of the Holy Land and secure Christian holy sites. The bull promised spiritual rewards, including the remission of sins and eternal salvation, intertwining the temporal goals of the crusade with profound personal piety. The theological underpinnings of the Crusades were deeply rooted in medieval Christianity's conception of holy war. Crusaders believed their actions were sanctioned by God, granting them not only a moral but also a divine imperative to reclaim lands associated with the life and ministry of Christ. This belief lent a transcendent quality to their mission, inspiring remarkable levels of sacrifice and perseverance. Participation in the crusade was seen as an act of penance and devotion, a means to cleanse the soul and secure eternal favor in the afterlife. This conviction resonated deeply in a society where religion was central to personal and communal identity. The role of religious propaganda was instrumental in galvanizing support for the crusade. Preachers, often commissioned directly by the papacy, traveled across towns and villages, delivering fiery sermons that emphasized the suffering of Christians in the Holy Land. These sermons painted a vivid picture of Muslim oppression, the desecration of sacred sites, and the urgent need for Christian intervention. They also framed the crusade as a communal effort, calling upon every Christian, regardless of social status, to contribute to the cause. These appeals were remarkably effective in uniting disparate groups under a shared spiritual banner. Religious fervor was further amplified by the symbolic significance of Jerusalem. As the site of Christ's crucifixion, resurrection, and ascension, Jerusalem held unparalleled importance in Christian theology. Its capture by Saladin in 1187 was not merely a military defeat but a profound spiritual crisis, shaking the foundations of Christendom's identity. The city's loss ignited a sense of collective responsibility to restore it to Christian control, a task imbued with both spiritual urgency and political necessity. Moreover, the Crusades were deeply intertwined with the medieval Church's broader efforts to assert its authority and unify Christendom under papal leadership. By framing the Crusades as a spiritual obligation, the Church reinforced its central role in guiding societal values and priorities. The Crusades also offered an opportunity to channel the martial energies of European nobility toward a cause that aligned with ecclesiastical goals, reducing internal conflicts while advancing the Church's influence. The alignment of religious motivations with cultural and social structures created a powerful impetus for the crusade. From monarchs and nobles to peasants and clergy, individuals across the social spectrum were drawn to the cause, driven by a mix of spiritual devotion, communal solidarity, and personal aspirations. This shared sense of purpose exemplified the deep integration of faith into the fabric of medieval life, illustrating how religious motivations could inspire and sustain large-scale endeavors even in the face of immense challenges. The religious motivations behind the Third Crusade, therefore, were not merely incidental but central to its conception and execution. They provided the ideological framework that justified the campaign, the emotional appeal that rallied support, and the moral compass that guided its participants. Understanding these motivations sheds light on the profound role of faith in shaping medieval society and the enduring legacy of the Crusades as a testament to the power of belief to drive human action. Political and economic factors. While religion was the driving force, political and economic considerations were integral to the Third Crusade, shaping its scope, objectives, and execution. The participation of powerful monarchs such as Richard the Lionheart of England, Philip II of France, and Frederick Barbarossa of the Holy Roman Empire highlighted the political stakes of the campaign. These leaders saw the crusade not merely as a spiritual endeavor but as a strategic opportunity to enhance their authority, expand their influence, and secure their legacies both at home and abroad. The political landscape of 12th-century Europe was characterized by intense rivalries and shifting alliances. For instance, the long-standing tensions between England and France frequently undermined the cooperation necessary for the Crusade's success. Richard the Lionheart and Philip II were often at odds, with their rivalry complicating the coordination of military efforts and leading to disputes over strategy and resources. Despite their shared goal of reclaiming Jerusalem, personal ambition and national interests often clashed, highlighting the challenge of maintaining unity among the Crusader forces. Frederick Barbarossa's involvement added another layer of complexity. As the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, he commanded one of the largest and most experienced armies of the Crusade. However, his untimely death during the journey to the Holy Land dealt a significant blow to the campaign, depriving the Crusaders of a key leader whose experience and authority might have fostered greater cohesion among the European forces. His death also underscored the logistical and environmental challenges faced by Crusaders, including treacherous terrain, disease, and supply shortages. Economic factors played an equally critical role in the crusade. For many participants, the prospect of wealth, land, and trade opportunities was a powerful motivator. Younger sons of nobility, who lacked inheritance prospects, saw the crusade as a means of gaining land and status. Knights and mercenaries were drawn by the promise of plunder and financial reward, while merchants and shipbuilders seized the opportunity to profit from the logistical demands of the campaign. Cities such as Venice, Genoa, and Pisa thrived as key hubs for transportation and trade, providing ships, supplies, and financial support in exchange for commercial privileges and influence in the Eastern Mediterranean. The economic impact of the Crusades extended beyond the immediate campaign. The expansion of trade networks facilitated cultural and technological exchanges between Europe and the Near East, contributing to the growth of urban centers and the rise of a merchant class. The Crusades also led to innovations in finance, including the use of credit and banking systems to fund military operations. These developments reflected the intersection of economic ambition with religious and political objectives, illustrating how material incentives could reinforce and sustain the broader goals of the crusade. In addition to individual and commercial interests, the Crusade served as a tool for consolidating political power within Europe. Monarchs used the campaign to assert their leadership and mobilize their subjects around a common cause, often imposing taxes and levies to finance the expedition. The Saladin tithe, a tax imposed in England and France, exemplified how rulers capitalized on the religious fervor of the crusade to generate revenue and strengthen their authority. This integration of political, economic, and religious motivations underscored the multifaceted nature of the crusade, where spiritual ideals and worldly ambitions were deeply intertwined. The political and economic dimensions of the Third Crusade were thus inseparable from its religious motivations. Together, they shaped the character and outcomes of the campaign, reflecting the complexities of medieval society and the interplay of faith, power, and commerce in driving historical change. By examining these factors, we gain a deeper understanding of the Crusade as a phenomenon that transcended its immediate goals, leaving a lasting legacy on the political and economic landscape of Europe and the Near East. The role of key figures. The Third Crusade was profoundly shaped by the actions and ambitions of its key leaders, whose decisions and rivalries significantly influenced the campaign's trajectory. Among these figures, Richard the Lionheart of England stands out as one of the most celebrated Crusader kings. Renowned for his military prowess and chivalric ideals, Richard's leadership played a pivotal role in the successes and challenges of the Third Crusade. His commitment to the cause was unwavering, yet his personal ambition and rivalry with Philip II of France often undermined the cohesion of the Crusader forces. Richard's tactical brilliance was evident in battles such as the Siege of Acre and the Battle of Arsuf, where his strategic acumen secured critical victories for the Crusaders. However, his uncompromising nature and occasional disregard for diplomacy also created tensions within the alliance. Philip II of France, in contrast, approached the crusade with a more pragmatic perspective. Although initially committed to the campaign, Philip's priorities often shifted toward securing his interests in France. His early departure from the crusade underscored the fragility of the European alliance, leaving Richard to shoulder much of the responsibility for the military efforts. Despite these challenges, Philip's contributions in the early stages of the campaign, particularly during the Siege of Acre, were instrumental in setting the stage for subsequent successes. Frederick Barbarossa, the venerable emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, brought unparalleled experience and resources to the crusade. Commanding one of the largest and most disciplined armies of the campaign, Frederick's leadership was marked by a deep sense of duty and strategic foresight. His untimely death in 1190, however, dealt a severe blow to the Crusaders, depriving them of a unifying figure whose authority and expertise could have fostered greater cohesion among the European forces. The loss of Frederick highlighted the logistical and environmental challenges faced by the Crusaders, including the difficulties of traversing treacherous terrain and maintaining morale over long distances. On the opposing side, Saladin's role as the Crusaders' primary adversary cannot be overstated. As a unifying force for the Muslim world, Saladin's leadership was characterized by a blend of military brilliance, political acumen, and personal charisma. His ability to inspire loyalty among his followers and maintain a cohesive front against the Crusaders was instrumental in defending the Holy Land. Saladin's strategies, including his emphasis on defensive warfare and his willingness to engage in diplomacy, often outmaneuvered the Crusaders, forcing them into protracted and costly campaigns. Despite his role as the Crusaders' opponent, Saladin's reputation for chivalry and fairness earned him respect even among his enemies, contributing to his enduring legacy as one of history's great leaders. The interplay of personalities among these key figures underscored the human dimension of the crusade. Their decisions, alliances, and rivalries shaped the course of the campaign, highlighting the complexities of leadership in a context of conflicting ambitions and shared goals. By examining the actions and legacies of these leaders, we gain a deeper understanding of the Third Crusade as a dynamic and multifaceted episode in medieval history. The call to arms. The mobilization for the Third Crusade was unprecedented in scale and scope, marking a period of extraordinary societal commitment and logistical ingenuity across Europe. The call to arms was initiated by Pope Gregory VIII's papal bull, or Dita Tremendi, issued in 1187. This powerful document emphasized the spiritual and moral urgency of the crusade, portraying the mission as a divine mandate to reclaim the Holy Land following its loss to Saladin. The bull promised remission of sins and eternal salvation to those who took up the cross, which significantly motivated knights, clergy, and commoners alike. The response to this call transcended traditional social and political boundaries. Across Europe, monarchs, nobles, clergy, and peasants answered the summons, inspired by a combination of religious fervor, feudal obligations, and personal ambition. Recruitment campaigns were driven by preachers who traveled from town to town, delivering impassioned sermons that called on Christians to defend their faith and restore Christian dominance in the Holy Land. These sermons also painted a vivid picture of Muslim control over Jerusalem, which was described as a profound spiritual and cultural affront to Christendom. Organizing such a massive campaign required a level of logistical coordination that was unprecedented for its time. Monarchs imposed taxes, such as the Saladin tithe in England and France, to fund the crusade. This tax was levied on all citizens, regardless of their participation in the crusade, demonstrating the collective nature of the effort. Wealthy nobles often financed their own contingents, outfitting troops with weapons, armor, and supplies. Cities such as Venice and Genoa played a crucial role in providing ships and maritime expertise, facilitating the transportation of thousands of crusaders across the Mediterranean. The participation of powerful monarchs, including Richard the Lionheart of England, Philip II of France, and Frederick Barbarossa of the Holy Roman Empire, added further significance to the mobilization effort. These leaders not only brought considerable resources and military expertise but also served as symbols of Christian unity and resolve. Their involvement underscored the importance of the crusade as a political and spiritual endeavor, elevating its status to a matter of international importance. The journey to the Holy Land presented immense challenges, testing the resolve and resourcefulness of the Crusaders. Long marches through hostile territories, harsh weather conditions, and limited supplies took a heavy toll on the armies. Frederick Barbarossa's death during the march through Anatolia highlighted the perils of the journey, underscoring the logistical difficulties faced by even the most experienced leaders. Despite these hardships, the collective determination to reach Jerusalem and reclaim it for Christendom remained a powerful unifying force. The mobilization for the Third Crusade also reflected broader societal changes in medieval Europe. The scale of participation and the level of organization required to sustain the campaign demonstrated the increasing centralization of power within European monarchies and the growing influence of the Church in directing societal priorities. The Crusade served as a unifying endeavor that transcended regional and national divisions, fostering a sense of shared purpose and identity among the participants. Thus, the call to arms for the Third Crusade was a remarkable demonstration of faith, ambition, and logistical ingenuity. It brought together individuals from all walks of life, united by a shared goal to reclaim the Holy Land and restore Christian control over Jerusalem. The Third Crusade was a watershed moment in the medieval era, reflecting the intricate interplay of religious, political, and economic forces that defined the period. While its immediate goal of reclaiming Jerusalem was not fully realized, the campaign nonetheless achieved significant military and political successes, including the securing of key coastal cities and the establishment of a tenuous truce between Richard the Lionheart and Saladin. These outcomes underscored the complexity of the Crusade's objectives, which were as much about asserting European dominance and unifying Christendom as they were about reclaiming holy sites. One of the most enduring aspects of the Third Crusade is its demonstration of how faith can act as a unifying force capable of mobilizing diverse populations and resources on an unprecedented scale. The call to arms transcended national, linguistic, and cultural boundaries, uniting European monarchs, nobles, and commoners in a shared spiritual mission. This unity, though often strained by internal rivalries and competing ambitions, highlighted the central role of religion in shaping medieval society and influencing its geopolitics. Politically, the Crusade illuminated both the strengths and limitations of European monarchies during this period. Leaders like Richard the Lionheart displayed remarkable strategic and tactical prowess, but their inability to fully cooperate and coordinate their efforts exposed the challenges of maintaining cohesion in large-scale endeavors. These political dynamics not only affected the outcomes of the crusade but also provided valuable lessons for future military and diplomatic efforts in the region. Economically, the crusade had profound and lasting effects. It facilitated the expansion of trade networks and the exchange of ideas, goods, and technologies between Europe and the Near East. Maritime cities like Venice and Genoa emerged as pivotal players in this new economic order, leveraging their logistical expertise and commercial acumen to shape the trajectory of the Crusades and beyond. The Crusade also underscored the role of economic incentives in motivating participation, from promises of land and wealth to the financial mechanisms that sustained the campaign. The Third Crusade also left an indelible mark on the historical consciousness of both Christendom and the Muslim world. Figures like Richard the Lionheart and Saladin became legendary, embodying the ideals of chivalry, leadership, and diplomacy. Their interactions, characterized by both conflict and mutual respect, have continued to captivate historians and the public alike, serving as a reminder of the complexities of war and the possibility of coexistence amid adversity. In examining the causes and outcomes of the Third Crusade, it becomes clear that the campaign was not merely a reaction to the fall of Jerusalem but a reflection of the broader dynamics of medieval society. The interplay of faith, power, and ambition drove the crusade, shaping its trajectory and its legacy. While the crusade failed to achieve its ultimate goal, its impact was far-reaching, influencing the political, economic, and cultural landscapes of both Europe and the Near East. Ultimately, the Third Crusade stands as a testament to the enduring power of collective human effort, shaped by a complex matrix of motivations and aspirations. Its legacy serves as both a historical case study in the challenges of large-scale collaboration and a poignant reminder of the profound ways in which faith, politics, and economics can intersect to shape the course of history. Thanks for listening. Like, comment, and subscribe to Medieval Chronicles 1066 for more journeys back to the Middle Ages. Stay curious. King John of England, widely regarded as one of the most controversial figures in English royal history, reigned from 1199 to 1216. As the youngest son of Henry II and Eleanor of Aquitaine, John's ascent to the throne and his subsequent rule were characterized by political strife, military failures, and strained relations with both the nobility and the church. His reign is often cited as a pivotal period that reshaped English governance through the eventual establishment of the Magna Carta. Let's explore in depth John's rise to power, his policies, his conflicts, and the enduring legacy of his reign within the broader historical context. Early life and ascent to the throne. Born on December 24, 1166, in Oxford, John was the youngest of Henry II's 5 sons. Nicknamed John Lackland, he initially inherited no significant landholdings, a stark contrast to his older brothers, who were granted vast territories as part of Henry's strategic efforts to consolidate Angevin power. This lack of inheritance shaped John's early experiences, fostering a sense of ambition and determination that would later define his approach to power. John's early education was unusually thorough for a prince of the time, emphasizing administration, law, and governance. These skills, cultivated under the supervision of his mother Eleanor of Aquitaine and key clerical figures, would prove invaluable during his later rule. However, his formative years were overshadowed by the intense rivalries within his family. The rebellions of his elder brothers against their father, Henry II, created a volatile environment in which loyalty was often fleeting and alliances shifted rapidly. As the youngest, John was often used as a pawn in his father's political maneuvers, further sharpening his understanding of the complexities of medieval power dynamics. John's fortunes began to change following the deaths of his elder brothers William, Henry the Young King, and Geoffrey. These losses reshaped the line of succession and brought John closer to the throne. By the time Richard I inherited the crown in 1189, John had been entrusted with significant titles and estates, including the Countship of Mortain. Despite this, he remained overshadowed by Richard, whose reputation as a warrior and leader earned him widespread admiration. Richard's decision to embark on the Third Crusade in 1190 presented John with an opportunity to assert his influence in England. During Richard's absence, John was tasked with governing England alongside William Longchamp, the Chancellor and Bishop of Ely. However, tensions between the two quickly escalated, leading John to position himself as a rival power within the kingdom. His actions during this period, including an unsuccessful rebellion against Richard in 1193, tarnished his reputation but also demonstrated his political acumen and ambition. John's rebellion ended with his public reconciliation with Richard, who forgave him but remained wary of his younger brother's motives. Richard's untimely death in 1199 marked a turning point for John. With the throne now within his grasp, he faced immediate challenges from his nephew Arthur of Brittany, the son of Geoffrey. Arthur, supported by factions in France and England, posed a significant threat to John's claim. The subsequent conflict between John and Arthur culminated in the latter's capture and mysterious death in 1203. While evidence remains inconclusive, contemporary accounts strongly suggest John's involvement in Arthur's disappearance, an event that would forever tarnish his reputation and fuel accusations of ruthlessness. John's accession was further complicated by the fragmented nature of his inherited territories. The Angevin Empire, spanning England, Normandy, Anjou, and Aquitaine, was a precarious collection of lands bound together by tenuous loyalty and the personal authority of the monarch. John's ability to navigate these challenges would define the early years of his reign as he sought to consolidate his power amidst mounting opposition. Foreign policy and military struggles. A major theme of John's reign was his ongoing struggle to retain English territories in France. The Angevin Empire, which had been built and maintained by his father Henry II and his brother Richard, began to crumble during John's reign. The loss of Normandy in 1204 to King Philip II of France marked a catastrophic blow to John's authority and to England's position in continental politics. This pivotal moment was the result of several factors, including John's inability to garner the loyalty of his Norman barons, the superior military strategy of Philip II, and John's own diplomatic miscalculations. The fall of Normandy dealt a severe blow to John's prestige. It also had economic and strategic consequences, as England lost its access to a key power base that had long served as a bridge between the English and French crowns. John attempted to regain these territories through both diplomacy and force, but his efforts were largely unsuccessful. His inability to establish lasting alliances with European powers further compounded the issue. One of John's most ambitious attempts to recover his continental holdings culminated in the 1214 Battle of Bouvines, where he joined a coalition against Philip II that included the Holy Roman Emperor and the Count of Flanders. Despite the coalition's formidable resources, the campaign ended in a humiliating defeat for John and his allies. The loss at Bouvines was not merely a military failure but a political catastrophe that weakened John's credibility among the English barons. The battle underscored John's inability to coordinate effective military strategies and exposed the limits of his diplomatic influence. John's struggles were not confined to France. In Ireland, he attempted to strengthen Norman control through military campaigns and the establishment of administrative structures. However, his policies faced resistance from native Irish lords and even from Anglo-Norman settlers, who resented John's heavy-handed approach. In Scotland, John's efforts to assert dominance were met with limited success, as he was unable to fully subdue the Scottish monarchy or integrate its territories into his realm. Similarly, his campaigns in Wales were marked by periodic gains that were quickly reversed, highlighting his inability to maintain sustained control over these regions. John's military failures were not solely the result of external pressures, they were also a product of his leadership style. His reliance on mercenaries, often funded through exorbitant taxation, alienated many of his barons. Moreover, John's reputation for mistrust and vindictiveness discouraged loyalty among his commanders and allies. His frequent demands for scutage, a tax levied in lieu of military service, further strained his relationship with the nobility and fueled resentment that would later erupt into open rebellion. The cumulative effect of these foreign policy and military struggles was a kingdom on the brink of collapse. John's inability to secure his continental territories, combined with his failures in Ireland, Scotland, and Wales, weakened the monarchy and emboldened his domestic opponents. These failures would have profound implications for the latter years of his reign, setting the stage for the baronial revolt that ultimately led to the sealing of the Magna Carta in 1215. Relations with the Church. John's relationship with the Church was fraught with protracted conflict and political maneuvering, reflecting the broader tensions between royal authority and ecclesiastical power during the medieval period. A key flashpoint was the dispute over the appointment of the Archbishop of Canterbury in 1205, following the death of Archbishop Hubert Walter. The monks of Canterbury elected Reginald, their sub-prior, without consulting John, who subsequently rejected the decision. In response, John nominated his own candidate, John de Grey, Bishop of Norwich. The stalemate escalated when Pope Innocent III intervened, rejecting both nominees and appointing Stephen Langton, a respected theologian and scholar. John's refusal to accept Langton ignited a major crisis. In 1208, Innocent placed England under an interdict, effectively suspending all religious services and sacraments, a move designed to pressure John into compliance. The interdict had profound social and political ramifications, as it deprived the population of essential religious rites, including marriages and burials, fostering widespread resentment toward John's defiance. The situation worsened in 1209 when John was excommunicated, a severe penalty that isolated him from the broader Christian community and undermined his legitimacy. Undeterred, John responded with measures to consolidate his control over church property, seizing ecclesiastical revenues and lands. These actions further alienated the clergy and deepened the rift between the crown and the church. By 1213, the growing domestic unrest and the threat of foreign intervention compelled John to reconcile with the papacy. In a dramatic political maneuver, John submitted to Innocent III's authority, agreeing to accept Langton as archbishop and declaring England a papal fief. This act of submission, while resolving the immediate crisis, was viewed by many as a humiliation that undermined the sovereignty of the English crown. Nevertheless, it restored John's standing within the church and secured papal support, which proved crucial during the baronial revolt that followed. The church conflict highlighted John's broader struggles with balancing royal authority against powerful institutions. While his reconciliation with the papacy temporarily stabilized his reign, it also underscored the limitations of his authority and the extent to which his policies alienated key constituencies. The long-term implications of this conflict would resonate beyond John's reign, influencing the evolving relationship between the English crown and the church in subsequent centuries, domestic policy and the road to the Magna Carta. Domestically, John's reign was marked by heavy taxation, arbitrary governance, and an increasingly adversarial relationship with the English nobility. John relied heavily on financial measures to fund his military campaigns and maintain his grip on power, leading to widespread discontent among his subjects. The primary method by which he extracted funds was through scutage, a tax levied in lieu of military service. While scutage had been employed by previous monarchs, John's frequent and exorbitant demands stretched the limits of what the nobility was willing to tolerate. Beyond scutage, John exploited the feudal system to raise revenue in ways that were perceived as oppressive and capricious. He imposed fines for minor infractions, levied punitive reliefs on inheriting barons, and demanded hostages from prominent families to ensure their loyalty. These practices not only alienated the nobility but also fostered resentment among lesser landholders and commoners, who bore the brunt of additional taxes. The heavy-handed nature of John's governance eroded trust in the crown and created an atmosphere of discontent across multiple strata of society. John's governance was further marred by allegations of favoritism and corruption. His reliance on a small circle of loyal advisers, including figures like Peter des Roches and Gerard d'Athy, fueled accusations of nepotism and incompetence. These advisers, often foreign-born, were resented by the English barons, who viewed their influence as an affront to traditional feudal hierarchies. This perception of favoritism intensified the barons' grievances and contributed to their eventual rebellion. The culmination of these tensions came in 1215 when John faced a full-scale revolt led by a coalition of disaffected barons. The rebels, supported by influential clergy and local leaders, presented a set of demands intended to curtail royal authority and protect their traditional rights. These demands were formalized in the Magna Carta, a document that sought to limit the king's arbitrary power by establishing principles of accountability and fairness. The Magna Carta addressed a range of issues, including the rights of the church, the regulation of feudal dues, and the administration of justice. It also included provisions aimed at preventing the king from imposing taxes without the consent of his council and ensuring that no free man could be imprisoned or punished without due process of law. While the Magna Carta was initially intended as a practical solution to the immediate crisis, it contained principles that would have lasting implications for the development of constitutional governance in England and beyond. Despite sealing the Magna Carta at Runnymede in June 1215, John's commitment to its terms was short-lived. He sought papal annulment of the charter, arguing that it had been signed under duress, and resumed his efforts to reassert royal authority. This repudiation led to the outbreak of the First Barons' War, a civil conflict that would dominate the final years of John's reign. The war further weakened John's position and underscored the deep divisions within his kingdom. The legacy of the Magna Carta, however, would outlive John. Reissued by his successors with modifications, it became a cornerstone of English law and a symbol of the enduring struggle between authority and accountability. Its influence can be traced through centuries of legal and political developments, shaping the evolution of democratic ideals and constitutional frameworks around the world. Death and legacy. John's death on October 19, 1216, from dysentery during the First Barons' War, marked the end of a turbulent reign. His final months were spent in frantic military campaigns, attempting to regain control over rebellious regions in England and Wales. As the Barons' War raged on, John's health began to deteriorate, compounded by the strain of constant travel and a lack of resources. His death occurred at Newark Castle, and his body was later interred at Worcester Cathedral. The immediate aftermath of John's death saw a kingdom on the brink of collapse. His 9-year-old son, Henry III, ascended the throne under the guidance of a regency council led by William Marshal, 1st Earl of Pembroke. Marshal's leadership was instrumental in stabilizing the realm, negotiating with rebel barons, and reissuing a revised version of the Magna Carta in 1217. This act marked the beginning of a broader effort to restore order and mend the divisions that had fractured the kingdom. While John's reign is often characterized by its failures, his death brought an opportunity for reconciliation and reform. The Magna Carta, initially a response to his mismanagement, became a foundational document in the evolution of constitutional government. Its principles of accountability, the rule of law, and the protection of individual rights resonated through subsequent centuries, influencing legal systems and democratic movements worldwide. John's legacy is a complex one. On the one hand, he is remembered as a deeply flawed monarch whose actions alienated his barons, the church, and much of his kingdom. His reputation for cruelty, mistrust, and greed has been immortalized in both historical accounts and popular culture. Yet, his reign also serves as a turning point in English history, highlighting the limits of autocratic power and the necessity of checks and balances in governance. Historians continue to debate the extent of John's culpability for the crises of his reign. Some argue that he was a victim of circumstances beyond his control, including the loss of the Angevin Empire and the shifting dynamics of medieval Europe. Others contend that his failures were largely self-inflicted, stemming from his inability to inspire loyalty and his penchant for arbitrary rule. Regardless of perspective, John's reign provides valuable insights into the challenges of medieval kingship and the enduring struggle between authority and accountability. In summary, King John's death marked the end of a turbulent chapter in English history, but his legacy endures through the transformative impact of the Magna Carta. His reign, though troubled, set the stage for significant constitutional developments that continue to shape governance and legal thought to this day. Conclusion. The reign of King John, while mired in controversy and marked by significant failures, represents a pivotal moment in the history of governance and law. His tumultuous rule underscores the fragility of monarchical authority when unchecked by accountability and consensus. Yet, from this era of discord emerged one of the most enduring legacies in the form of the Magna Carta. This document, born out of rebellion and dissatisfaction, laid the groundwork for constitutional governance and established principles that resonate to this day. John's reign serves as both a cautionary tale and a catalyst for reform. It exemplifies the dangers of autocratic rule, where short-sighted policies and personal grievances alienate key constituencies and destabilize governance. At the same time, it highlights the resilience of institutions and the capacity for innovation in the face of crisis. The Magna Carta, originally a tool for curbing John's excesses, evolved into a beacon for justice, liberty, and the rule of law, influencing legal frameworks across the globe. The complexities of John's legacy remind us that even deeply flawed leaders can inadvertently contribute to transformative change. His failures created the conditions for dialogue, negotiation, and the articulation of rights that extended beyond the feudal hierarchy to shape the principles of modern democracy. By examining John's life and reign, we gain not only a deeper understanding of medieval politics but also insights into the enduring struggle for accountability, fairness, and governance that transcend his time. Ultimately, King John's reign offers lessons that extend far beyond the medieval period. It challenges us to consider the balance between authority and responsibility, the importance of institutional safeguards, and the potential for progress even in the wake of misrule. In this way, his reign, though fraught with turmoil, remains a cornerstone in the narrative of governance and the evolution of legal and political thought. Thanks for listening. Like, comment, and subscribe to Medieval Chronicles 1066 for more journeys back to the Middle Ages. Stay curious.